Hi-ho, hi-ho, we're on the radio. We talk on air without a care. Hi-ho, hi-ho, hi-ho.
Stimulating late-night sports conversation for people who know that just trying to find someone sober to talk to at this time of night is like trying to find a pig on the moon.
In the early morning mist I see.
No rules news debate from around the world and around the bend. The two mics
Apply more lager.
on Talk Sport.
Yeah.
Look at the light! Trouble you use the time always as a handbrake U-turn to get out of an argument you can't win.
No, I use the time to keep the show going towards the right time frame that it's meant to go in.
Boulder Dash. Hey, Porky! You're viral! You're viral! Everybody thought I'd got some sort of sexual disease.
Yeah. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics, and I'm delighted to say that it's time to say a very, very good morning to a very healthy-looking Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to Mr. Parry.
Well, good morning, Mike, and I'm glad you're safely back from America.
Thank you.
Hear all about your adventures in the US in a second or two. I'm looking healthy because, of course, I've had nothing to drink over the weekend.
Nothing to drink?
Literally
Is that why
nothing
you're
to
stumbling
drink.
over your words? Why?
No, well,
I'm getting very worried about you.
I just fancy it.
I'm getting very worried.
I saw the FA Cup final in real time as opposed to your 5 hours behind, on Saturday.
Well, I didn't see it at all.
And thank God it livened up in the last 10 minutes. And
It wasn't a great game, I understand.
No, it wasn't. No, and subsequently, it provided a bit of entertainment. But it was amazing, really, because the whole game, which you wouldn't have picked up on, and the whole event of the cup final was completely overshadowed by the fact that everybody knew that Louis van Gaaal...
But why did everybody know? I mean, I heard that you were saying on Clash of the Titans that basically you were expecting it all to be changing over the course of the next 48 hours.
Well,
but why did everybody know?
One report in one paper on Saturday morning said, irrespective of the result tonight, Manchester United will, they didn't say might, will make a statement after the game that Louis van Gaaal has been relieved of his duties and Jose Mourinho is being installed as the new boss. Now, that wasn't completely right, of course, because what's happened since is that in a drawn-out 36-hour period, Louis van Gaaal has been relieved of his duties, but it wasn't immediately after the cup final.
No, because one of the papers this morning saying he got a phone call to say that basically that was it, and it came from Jose.
Could be, I don't know the details of that. Jose's not yet been officially appointed, but I think Louis van Gaaal was told, because when he came out of the hotel on Sunday morning, because they stayed in the Hilton Hotel at Wembley immediately before the game.
They stayed, I'm told, close enough so they couldn't be
walking distance,
so they didn't have to worry about the coach scenario.
Walking distance
after some of the problems they've had.
Walking distance. That was before the game, right?
Yeah.
But then after the game, the coach took him to somewhere like the Lansdowne or something like that.
What, in Marylebone? Or,
yeah, I think so. That's what it looked like to me. And when Louis van Gaaal came out the following morning,
this is when he said it's over, right?
That's what he said. Somebody said to him, have you had any talks with anybody? And he just said it's over.
Yeah.
And then Manchester United asked about it, said, well, that must have been his...
Well, except the papers again this morning are saying he's left in a rage, that he wasn't very happy. Well, and in fact, the Times are saying that he would have left with no money had they handled it better.
Yes, I think it...
So as much as he says that it was over on Sunday, presumably today, he wasn't expecting to be fired straight away. He was expecting to be kept on in some capacity, maybe. Well,
somebody at Manchester United, amazingly, managed to say, no, the it's over comment was in relation to him saying... it's been a long period that Manchester United have gone without a trophy.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's over.
It's over.
Well, it's over.
That's one interpretation. It's not the one I would make, to be honest.
Exactly.
It doesn't sound like that's what you meant to say.
There's all sorts of... I mean, look, you can read and there's all sorts of reports of how badly handled it was by Manchester United internally, how... in the aftermath of the winning the FA Cup, the press conference for the winning team, and all the press officers at Manchester United are saying you can only ask questions about the game today.
Yes.
Everybody was saying, have you been sacked, Louis?
But also, and I know others have said this, but does it not tell you how irrelevant the FA Cup is? You're always going on about the romance of the FA Cup. Yeah. But in fact, the FA Cup came and went, and the only reason most of the people were there to talk to Van Gaaal was not about the FA Cup.
Well, no, not really, because the FA Cup is becoming back and becoming more relevant every year.
I don't think so.
No, I think it is.
Well, why have they sacked a manager for winning it then?
Well, they didn't sack a manager for winning it. You've got to remember that Real Madrid once sacked a manager after he won the Champions League.
Yes, I know that.
And I think AC Milan did as well.
That's not the practice that normally exists in Premier League clubs, is it?
But the point is, winning the FA Cup is still prestigious in my view, but not prestigious enough after 3 years of no silverware.
Maybe for less successful clubs than Manchester United, but not good enough for Manchester United.
Yeah, that's true. I was about to say it wasn't good enough to stop the decline in not winning competitions.
Yeah, so I guess Jose Mourinho's not going to Everton then.
Not going to Everton, no.
No.
Well, we don't think he's going to Everton.
He must be devastated.
Although there's one amazing report, isn't it, tomorrow morning's papers saying that Joe Hart might be going to Everton.
Joe Hart?
Joe Hart, yeah, might be going to Everton.
Joe Hart?
Yeah.
I've seen the one say that David Moyes is on the list.
No, that Joe Hart might be going now.
Why would Joe Hart go to Everton?
And get paid £200,000 a week? Because apparently Pep Guardiola has already made it clear he doesn't fancy Joe Hart.
Really?
Because he's not good with his feet.
Really?
Apparently. I mean, that's not an interpretation I've put on it, but that's what I'm being told.
I can't imagine he would want to go to Everton. I don't see that. I would imagine if he wanted to go anywhere, and no disrespect to you or Everton, you would expect him to want to still play in the Champions League. Otherwise, why is he going to be England's number one goalkeeper?
Well, he's going to be England's number one goalkeeper, but...
Do Everton need a goalkeeper then, now that Howard's gone?
Yes, we do, yeah. We got Robles.
Yeah.
But I think the jury's still out of Mr. Robles. And you've got to remember, Everton got a new manager coming in, so...
Yeah, but you haven't got one yet, have you?
What?
You haven't got... I mean, nothing's happened over the weekend that you need to tell me about.
Well, again...
last time I spoke to you, you were expecting Ronald Koeman to come, but then he said he didn't want to.
Well, no, he hasn't said that, you see. He's been interviewed tomorrow, apparently.
Is he?
Yeah. So I don't know what the situation is. I know that Everton are very serious about getting the right manager. Yeah. It looks as if... I mean, if the speculation that Joe Hart might go to Everton on £200,000 a week, that's quite encouraging in the sense that it means, perhaps, Everton have upped their game.
They might blow all the money on Joe Hart, though.
Well, they might have a lot of money. They might have a lot of money, hopefully. And if they...
There's a lot of people obviously very unhappy about the fact that Louis van Gaaal is no longer going to be the butt of all of your mispronunciations.
Do you mean from Shoebury Town?
From Shoebury Town, yeah.
But as you say, he brought you bacon home.
He did bring the bacon home. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's very funny whenever managers get fired. And people have actually started to say they feel sorry for this guy. He's walked away with £5 million.
Yeah.
I don't think you should feel too sorry for him.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's personal pride, isn't it, when you get to that sort of
stage?
But
I mean, he may not wish to manage another team. He said before his wife wanted him to retire. Yeah. She didn't really want him to work anymore. So he can now drift off into the sunset and sit around playing golf and, drinking wine in the afternoon and having a lovely time.
Yeah, but you see, that sort of thing is what you would like to do eventually. But it's the sort of thing that I could never take to.
It's the sort of thing I already do.
Yeah, but I could never take to.
Yeah, but that's because you can't sit still.
No, it's not. I could never
relax.
take to that. No,
you can't relax.
I believe that
you don't know how to relax.
I believe that God gave us a mission on earth, and that mission is to be a productive human being, not a fat slob drinking wine and playing golf all day. Yeah. That does not add up to what I think a proper person should do.
The only appearance you made over the weekend? Did you do anything else? Did you do any other work?
Well, I did a bit on Irish radio today.
Today?
Yeah, who was it with? Who's the chap I do it with? He's a very nice guy.
Stephen Nolan.
Stephen Nolan, that's right. Yes, I talked to Stephen this morning.
I didn't want to say his name.
No, that's okay, that's all right. And
what was that about?
Eh?
What was that about?
Oh, that was about Louis van Gaaal,
okay.
and Jose Mourinho.
So you're an expert now?
Yeah, I gave him the benefit of my opinion.
What did you say then?
Sorry?
What did you say there?
I said that it's 3 years too late in appointing Jose Mourinho because actually they should have done this the moment that Sir Alex Ferguson indicated he was going.
Does this also tell you, because you've always talked about this, Sir Bobby Charlton's influence in terms of board-level Manchester United type stuff is not what it was?
Well, that's quite interesting, actually, because the other person on the programme today was Paddy Graham.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Paddy Graham is part of United Old School.
Yes.
Paddy Graham.
I remember watching him play.
Yes, he will not hear a word's criticism against Manchester United.
No.
So when Stephen Nolan was, and what has been happening at Manchester United and why...
Oh, the Brendan Rodgers one could come back now that he's gone to Celtic.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. He said, and why haven't we had the situation resolved sooner, Mike? And I said, well...
I presume you don't do the fake Irish accent when you're on Irish radio.
No, of course I don't. No, I'm imitating Stephen Nolan.
Right.
So then, knowing that Paddy Graham's there, and Paddy Graham is like a man, you just have to light the fuse and he explodes. And I said, the thing is, Stephen, it's all down to the old school at Manchester United, of which Paddy Graham is a part. Yeah. Because, of course, he played with Bobby Charlton. It's Bobby Charlton who thought that Jose Mourinho wasn't good enough for Manchester United, didn't you, Paddy? Yeah. And Paddy exploded and... you're talking about... You're mad, you're a young whippersnapper. So everybody who calls me a young whippersnapper has got to be of a certain age. Yeah.
By the way, talking about people going mad, did you hear the fat man went a bit mad on Hawksby and Jacobs?
I want to listen to this.
Yeah, this was Neil Custis.
Yeah, from The Sun.
But we'll have a listen to it in a moment.
Well, I mean, we've given him great credence as being the boy who's always been ahead on this story.
You have,
Yes, I have, yes. Yeah. And what happened? Did he take umbrage to the fact that it didn't...
You're going to find out very, very shortly. But it was described on Twitter as a moment not dissimilar to the man who must not be named. when he came on our show when we were doing their
slot. About Jay Rayner?
No, don't mention his name.
Okay, sorry.
He's a man that must not be named.
Okay.
For heaven's sake. We'll listen to the Fat Man coming up next.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics, winners and losers, coming up a little bit later on. We're going to talk time travel as well, of course. Now, not very often that somebody's accused of acting like the man who must not be named on Talk Sport Radio. Funnily enough, it was on the very same slot when we interviewed the man who must not be named that Neil Custis appeared, basically to be interviewed by Hawksby and Jacobs about Louis van Gaal.
Yes.
And it didn't start off very well because he didn't really like the first question.
What about these stories then about the players receiving emails they didn't read and would leave their phones on because there was some sort of check on whether they did? Players who didn't know how to boil eggs, all this crackpot stuff that suddenly come out. Where's that all come from in the last 36 hours?
Why do you call it crackpot?
Well, they're odd stories. Whether Matteo Darmian or Marcus Rashford or anybody else can cook an egg or not, I mean, it's neither in or there. It's not necessarily LVG's fault.
So why is it not a story?
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't.
Why are you asking me about it if it's not a story?
I'm not saying it isn't a story.
Why do you get journalists on your radio show and then criticise what they do?
I'm not criticising.
We're not criticising. It's a very strange attitude to take. We're not criticising at all.
Where it's come from.
Why do you call it crackpot?
Well, it's just a term. It's just a terminology. It's a funny story, isn't it?
It's not a crackpot story.
It's a mad story, isn't it?
It's a story.
Well, stories can never have any description on them. They can't be called a mad story or a fun story or a crackpot story. It's just everything's just a story.
Crackpot to suggest that it's stupid to write it.
No, that's not what it means. This conversation's pointless. Really.
I don't know where we got to this.
That's ridiculous. I don't know why you've come on with this attitude. It's crazy.
I've not come on.
You have come on. Get rid of it. Seriously.
You're the one who's saying that people have been saving up stories to rain on a parade of an FA Cup final, and you're the one who's saying that a story is crackpot. It's not crackpot. What has happened with LVG's reign is that players haven't been happy with it. The players have not been looking at these emails that have been sent out. The players have not bought into it, and the players are not on side with them at all. And that's been the case for probably 18 months, and certainly since December.
I'm asking you, why wasn't that reported before? You said this was common knowledge. So I'm just asking why it wasn't reported before. Why was it only reported after the cup final? I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just asking the question.
No, it was reported before. It's been reported. I've been reporting it for 6 months that they've not been happy with his training regimes, that they've not been happy with the video analysis constantly, that they've not been happy with 2-3 sessions in a day. That's been reported. I've been reporting that for 5 or 6 months.
Dear me. Sounds a bit tetchy, that, doesn't it?
It does indeed, yeah. I totally agree with what Paul and Andy were saying.
Yeah.
They said the crackpot stories, meaning the behaviour of Louis van Gaal was crackpot.
Well, also crackpot stories being that they're not particularly about football.
Exactly.
They're about the sort of the ambience of the place.
Neil gets up on his high horse, and I've known Neil for 20 years probably.
Yeah.
Gets up on his high horse, why are you calling it crackpot? Well, it's crackpot, it's those
But he's very touchy, isn't he? He's very touchy about people accusing him of making stories up.
Well, I've never accused him of making stories up, and I don't think anybody here has.
No, but a lot of people like him are very, very touchy because they think that people in radio do that all the time.
Well, maybe, but I mean, they've got to have self-confidence in what they write, haven't they? And funny enough, in an exchange with Paddy Graham this morning on my Irish radio.
Are you just going to keep plugging the other radio station?
Not at all.
Is that what you're going to do?
Not at all. He
Come on here to plug your other appearance.
No, I said to him, I said, you've got to remember now that, it doesn't look like Van Gaal's moving upstairs to take on this director of football role. He said, why should he? I said, that was a report last week. He said, he says, you're one of these fellas who believes everything you read in a newspaper, are you?
Well, that's partly why there's a problem, because a lot of the former footballers will say these stories are all rubbish.
And I said, I believe most of the stuff in papers, Paddy. I said, I used to write for him for 30 years. I never told a lie. I said, I never made anything up, Yeah,
no, they don't like going there. No. Let me read you a few tweets. Here's one from Pat, who says, the Man United team stayed at the Corinthia Hotel in Westminster, like they always do when in London.
Good.
Stephen says, the Man United, and he's a Man United fan, this guy, showed a lack of class sacking LVG after winning the Cup. They should have waited a couple of days. Well, I don't see why waiting a couple of days makes you any more classy, to be honest.
I think it's ridiculous.
I don't think it makes any... There's no point.
When the sword of Damocles is hanging over a man's head, then the very worst thing you can do is not to cut the cord.
That's hanging the sword.
Yeah, that's holding the sword above your neck.
So there's a rope of Damocles as well as a sword. Is that what you're saying?
Well, there's a cable of Damocles which holds the sword. Right. Yeah, and it's better to clip the cable and let the sword
who's holding the cable?
fall. Well, fate and God.
Fate and God.
And you clip that, and then the sword falls, bang, your head comes off, and but at least you're free then to
go and spend the rest of your life enjoying yourself.
Expunge yourself.
Yes, exactly right. Here's one from Bill, who says, Stephen Nolan, Porky sounds more like Colleen Nolan with bronchitis.
Who?
You. When you were doing your impersonation of Stephen Nolan.
Oh, I see, right,
like
Sorry, okay, yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Have you had any sleep over the weekend?
No, oh yes, I have, plenty of sleep. No,
Gemma says this, I think Porky's been drinking too much coffee to come up with this Joe Hart nonsense.
No, it's a report, says, I didn't come up with it.
Well, is it true, though? That's the point.
Well, I don't know if it's true or not. All I'm saying is, clearly a discussion has taken place at Everton about the sort of players they want to attract and buy, and Joe Hart's name's come in the frame because people in football seem to think Pep Guardiola doesn't fancy him.
Matty says this, I think Porky needs to give the listeners what they want and get him to say Louis van Gaal's army in his accent, just as a going-away present.
Well, you want me to do that?
Yeah, go on then.
Louis van Gaal's army!
No longer will Planky have a reason to say Van Gaal in such a way offensive to Dutch speakers as myself.
Louis van Gaal's army!
Absolutely ridiculous.
He didn't say it with any rhythm, did he? He didn't say it like, Louis van Gaal's army, Louis van Gaal's...
The thing is, he has quite an odd way of speaking. People have criticised us in the past for making fun of the way that he speaks. But it's not so much the way, the fact that he doesn't speak English as a first language.
No.
It's just the kind of things he comes out with.
It's true.
I mean, like the sex masochism thing was amazing.
Yes.
Nobody else would have come out with it. And I think we'll miss him, actually. I'd love it if he went to Everton. I'd love that.
No, you won't go to Everton.
Let's have a listen to him doing it.
Yeah.
Louis van Gaal's army! Louis van Gaal's army!
It's just not very rhythmic, as
he
you
calls
say.
himself Louis van Gaal.
Yeah.
Well, of course, he's known as Louis van Gaal.
Van Gaal. Yeah, well, I mean, I think we had a big conversation, did we not, 2 years ago about the correct way to pronounce everything.
And I got it right.
Well, you didn't get it far wrong.
No, you did. You conceded I got it right.
You actually didn't get it far wrong.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, so, what else happened over the weekend I need to know about?
Right, let me tell you. Over the weekend, what happened was Andy Murray's nearly gone out of the French Open.
Well, no, he hasn't.
He has nearly.
No, he hasn't. He lost the first 2 sets. He won the third one 6-love.
And he's winning the fourth.
He's winning the fourth.
Yeah, so he nearly went out, because if you're 2 sets down, you lose the third, you go out.
Yeah, but he didn't go out.
Now, the other thing is...
Well, why don't you put him in as one of your losers tonight, and then he'll probably win.
The other thing is that I'm telling you, Celtic Football Club is one of the biggest...
He's back.
One of the biggest football clubs in the world.
It's like as one door closes, the other one opens.
Oh, yes.
Now that Louis van Gaal is out of the business, Brendan Rodgers is back in.
Remember when he was at Liverpool? It was... This club,
Liverpool Football Club.
Liverpool Football Club is such a size that my players sometimes intimidated by playing in front of the cup at this magnificent stadium at this world-famous club. But now it transpires, of course, I've had a passion for Celtic for very many years.
It's the Robbie Kane line, isn't
it? Yeah. He's now revealed something I didn't know. He's been a boyhood fan of Celtic
Apparently
since the age of 10.
Yeah, who knew that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
astonishing.
I'm not doubting it. I'm sure it's true. He managed to hide that under.
And it was a bit of
it
was a bit of a punchy weekend in Scotland, wouldn't you say? Because there was all that business at the Scottish Cup final.
No, I mean this is. I'll tell you what happened as well, right? So I'm watching both cup finals. I'm switching from one to the other, and
you texted me at one point.
That's right.
And I mean, it's something to the effect, which was not an unusual thing to say, but have you seen what's happened in the Scottish Cup final?
Exactly.
Because I hadn't, because I was sitting in the back garden of my sister's house in Connecticut.
I mean, it's very interesting. And at one stage, I was going to be very mischievous and say, at least this time the Scottish fans are smashing up their own stadium, not ours. Because obviously in 1977 when I was there, they smashed up Wembley
and took the turf. And some people have still got bits of that turf.
I'm sure they have, and they collapsed the crossbar and the goals, which is what happened at Hampden. But what was most interesting was that the man who won it, who is Alan Stubbs, right? The
former Evertonian.
Yeah, so I start tweeting out, good for Stubbsy and all that. And that's a personal thing. I knew Alan Stubbs at Everton. I used to, whenever I was, around Everton and all that, he was always around, and it was, hi Mike, how you doing, like kind of stuff. So I'm very pleased for him.
Decent sort of guy, isn't he?
Yeah, very decent guy, I thought. But the minute I tweeted out saying, good old Stubbsy,
Did you get the Rangers brigade on?
Oh, the wrath of the blue half.
Well, you never get involved in any kind of Scottish football.
But I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean Rangers got beaten. All I was saying was good old Stubbs. He's won himself a Scottish Cup. You know,
I mean the number of different accounts.
Terrible
of what
wrath.
Because I was following it obviously on Twitter. And then I read the stories later. But you know the numbers of different things that were being said. Like for instance, everyone from Rangers saying how disgraceful it was that the Hibs fans were abusing their players, putting them in danger, threatening them, punching them, spitting at them. Hibs fans all saying it's all made up, it's rubbish. Rangers are just saying this so that they can somehow cover up. But they didn't come out for their medals, did they?
No. One version of events is that a few Hibs fans, this is one explanation, came on the pitch at the end to escort their own players off the pitch
yes, of course.
in the face of impending violence. Yes. At which stage Rangers fans retaliated by also coming onto the pitch, and the ensuing melee and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I do think Rangers, look, I'm not going to criticise
anything. Well, the Scottish PFA has now come out
they've got to
made
get
a statement saying that it was dreadful. So I think for anyone to say nothing happened is wrong, right?
Oh, of course it is. But I have to say, Rangers at the end were in a very invidious position. Yeah. When you get like half the stadium celebrating big style like they did, and they won the first trophy in 102 years. It became out of control.
Right.
And therefore...
But you see, normally speaking, I'm sure you've been to a Scottish Cup final with the old firm, but I mean, the first one I ever went to, I think Celtic won it, and the rest of the stadium just empty.
Yes, that's right,
the Rangers fans all went home.
Yeah, but
there was this rather bizarre scene where half the stadium at Hampden is full.
It always happens.
To the brim. And the other half's completely empty.
Yeah, that's always happened. But on this occasion, because of the invasion of the pitch. Yeah. And what happened was, when the pitch was invaded, there is some footage showing Rangers players definitely being intimidated by fans. Now, at that stage, your Rangers fans then decide we can't have this. And they come on and all that kind of stuff. So it was a pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Uncomfortable spectacle, I would say.
Yeah, well, that's what you're going to get. That's what happens when you've got these big teams back in the same sort of place with each other.
Yes.
Now, I've got lots to do. Coming up, I'll be telling you some stories of my trip to America.
Excellent. I want to hear some.
He hasn't actually asked me about yet because he's been too busy telling us about all the shows he's been on while I was away. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Talk Sport, we are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Josh says this: Porky has definitely gained the name of the Snake of Talk Sport. No loyalty, AMG.
What?
He says. And Andrew says, perhaps Porky can start a new campaign, Louis van Gaaal for Everton.
No, I don't think so. No, definitely not.
You don't think so?
He's got size 11 feet, by the way.
Who?
Louis van Gaaal.
Has he?
Yeah.
Well, he was quite a good player, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was quite good, yeah.
Ransom says, Van Gaaal is no crackpot. The leaks made the players look like a bunch of whiny, useless babies. 2 training sessions. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, I've also heard people say, well, this is what happens when you put somebody who's the age of Louis van Gaaal from that generation into trying to run a football club with young men who are not used to being sort of disciplined in the way that he was.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure that's true.
By the way,
Sir Alex Ferguson did all right, didn't he?
Yeah, he did fine, yeah. But, I mean, he didn't treat them like children, you know.
Yeah, but I think he was pretty hard on him, wasn't he?
Well, he used to go round to Ryan Giggs' house in the early days, and when neighbours rang up...
He would go and pull people out of parties, wouldn't he?
He'd go and close parties down. Yeah. He had all the neighbours primed because it was a Manchester United house. If there was any noise here, you ring the club immediately. The club then rang Sir Alex Ferguson. He drove round there and he closed the party down. Yeah. Asked them what they were all playing at. Which is great iron discipline. Neil Custis, referring to these stories about boiled eggs and all that, that was a United player who asked the chef to boil him some eggs to take home because although he just had a new £500,000 kitchen installed, didn't know how to switch on the cooker.
Didn't know how to boil an egg.
Boil an egg and all that kind of stuff. And the other one was... this is quite funny. He used to call 2 meetings a day. This is the allegation that Neil Custis was referring to. And tell them, no, we watch more video to see where we went wrong.
But not the sex masochism video.
No, not the sex masochism. No. Watch the video. And then, they have to spend 20 minutes watching her, and this was very poor. We should do this, we should do this. Why should you do that, So anyway, Rooney and...
But doesn't everyone do that? I mean, they all watch videos, don't they? They all watch previous
not as many as he wanted them to watch.
Really?
So Rooney and Carrick go to see him on the quiet, Rooney being club captain, Carrick senior pro and all that.
Yeah.
And so I think the boys are getting a bit fed up with that. Oh, really? Oh, it's okay. So he gets the IT guy up and says, no, instead of showing you boys, I want you to put them in packages and send them to them, right. Your emails and your phones.
So they watch it in their own time?
Yeah.
It's quite reasonable, isn't it?
Well, so he sends them,
yeah.
But then when he when he sees them the next day and says, what do you think of your video? And he was obviously hadn't watched it, right. Hadn't bothered. So then he gets the IT guy up and says, no, I want you to put your special thing on, because I need to know, have they opened your video and watched it, okay? Yeah. So the IT guy does this as well. So then, the next day, he says, I know you have not watched it, because you... Oh, right. So when the players found out he was actually tracking whether they'd opened it or not, right. As soon as the video arrived... They used to switch it on and then put it in a drawer and go out or something like that.
So it looked like they'd watched it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, maybe they should have been spending more time actually concentrating on training and playing football rather than doing all that. But I mean, it does seem a bit ridiculous. Yeah. Now, we've been sitting here for 34 minutes since we started the show. You haven't asked me one question about where I went, who I saw, the people that you supposedly are quite good friends with, whether they had any messages for you. Unbelievable. I think absolutely staggering.
I think you have to understand that.
Your selfishness knows no bounds.
No.
The trouble with you is, right, I go away for a while and you forget about me.
No.
And you think, you've been managed on your own fine. That's what you think. No. That is what you think.
The point is, this show is all about the wider world and you want to be self-indulgent.
And people have been tweeting me all day.
Bore us to death about, what you've been doing.
Saying, looking forward to hearing about
your
trip
how was the flight over anyway?
Flight over was very nice.
Get the upgrade?
No.
Oh.
Did you ring anyone?
Well, I had a word with those who I could have a word with.
Did you? Well, they're obviously not of an opinion to help you out.
Can I just say something to you, please?
Yes.
Sometimes these upgrades are made at the very last moment as you get on the plane.
Yes.
And what they do is, Mike, they weigh you up, literally.
Yeah, that's why I was wearing a suit.
They weigh you up, yeah. But
that's why I always wear a suit when I fly.
But the problem is, I've flown with you before, and in the immediate hours prior to boarding an aeroplane... You do go down the bladderation route.
That's not true.
In a big way.
That's not true.
And I think
That's absolutely untrue. That's a complete calumny.
No.
Do you know what I did when I got to... I'll tell you what first happened to me, actually.
Yes.
I went to get the train to Paddington.
Yes.
Right, I took the Jubilee line to Baker Street.
Yes.
As you do.
Yes.
And you get on the Bakerloo line.
No Bakerloo line?
No, I was on the Bakerloo line.
Right.
But as I was standing on the Bakerloo line train, I noticed a little sign, very small, not very clearly put up there, saying until from April the 4th until August the 2nd, the Bakerloo line will not stop at Paddington.
Yeah, that got me when I went to Cardiff.
Did it?
So I had to go...
Why didn't you tell me?
Well, I wasn't aware it was still going on. What happened was...
I said April until August.
No, what happened to me was I was at Victoria and I said to this guy, what line is working, what isn't? I've got to get to Paddington. He said, no good going on the District and Circle anymore, sir. He said, Paddington's not open.
Well, no, it's open for the District and Circle.
Is it? OK. Whichever one it was, Victoria line or something, Bakerloo, is it?
I don't know the Underground at all.
I don't know the Underground. So he said...
Complete plank.
He said, go to King's Cross on the Victoria line and then cut back to Paddington, which is what I did.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pleased about that.
Would you
like to tell us any more about your trip?
Did you miss your train to Heathrow?
No, I didn't know. There's a train every 15, 20 minutes on the Heathrow Express.
I thought they were cutting them down to like 2 an hour or something.
No, there's about 3 or 4 an hour.
Right, OK.
No, the Heathrow Express is fine.
So you got to Heathrow. What happened then?
So I got to Heathrow. I was about 3 hours before the flight was due to go.
Yeah.
So I went through security, which was pretty painless.
Yeah.
Waited about half an hour, maybe.
Did you have your security pass with you, or had you done that on the computer?
You mean my boarding pass?
No, your security clearance.
Security clearance for America?
Yes.
Well, you now have to do it online anyway.
Right, exactly.
Because you have to, because they don't any longer have those landing cards.
That's what I mean.
They don't do that anymore.
No.
So so that was fine. So I went and had a couple of cups of coffee. Yeah. Had a little bit of breakfast. I had nothing to drink at all.
I can't believe you.
No, I don't drink. It was like 7 in the morning.
You didn't have a single alcoholic drink?
No.
Something wrong with you.
Well, I've been working all night. I didn't feel like having a drink.
Okay,
so I was fine. I had a couple of glasses of wine on the plane. But then, the problem then was, came through Newark reasonably quickly, wasn't too bad, but I went to go and get the train to Connecticut, and you have to take a monorail around the opposite side of the place, and I could see Manhattan in the distance.
Yes.
And I'm thinking,
I saw the picture,
I wish I was just going to Manhattan.
Yes, exactly.
I just wish I was going to Manhattan, but they'd convinced me to go all the way to Connecticut. Got to the train station, it's 2 o'clock, and I said to this woman, when's the next train to New Haven? 5 o'clock. So there wasn't a train for 3 hours.
Why?
And this is the main line to Washington, right? Normally there's a train every hour.
I just don't get that.
And there wasn't a train. So in the end, I had to just decide. I said, well, the hell with it. I'm just going to hire a car. So I hired a car of some expense.
Yes.
But luckily I saved enough money on the cigarettes that I bought to actually more or less pay for the hire car.
Exactly, yeah.
So I drove up, but it took 4 hours. Because that was what I was trying to avoid.
Of course you were, yeah.
And it was rush hour.
Yeah.
So I got up there about 7:15.
It was a bit of a clutch slipping crawl, was it?
Yeah, because my plan was to get on the train and maybe get a bit bladderated on the train.
Exactly, yeah.
Sit in the bar car and have a few beers.
Yeah, didn't work.
No, I couldn't do that because I was driving.
Yeah, but you see, if it took 4 hours in the car, if you'd waited 3 hours for the train, how long would the journey have taken
then? Train's about 2.5 hours, though.
I see, yes,
so it would have been. I still got there before the train would have done.
You see, just to get the scale of America, if that train journey is 2.5 hours, in this country you can get from London to Liverpool in 2.5 hours.
Yes.
These are the sort of distances we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It was around, I don't know, it's 150 miles or something up to Connecticut.
But anyway, you had a good couple of days with your family.
And also I brought you a present.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Even though you did not supply me with a present.
But I sent your mother and your sister a very nice note.
So here it is. Mm-hmm. This is what I thought would remind you of Manhattan.
Oh, excellent, great. Thanks very much indeed.
It's a can.
Right. This is the Mary Kitchen corned beef hash, home style.
Yeah.
America's #1 selling hash.
In a tin.
In a tin,
because I knew you'd want something. I knew you wouldn't want anything fresh.
And listen what they say for the directions. This is American directions, okay? Stove top, empty contents of can into skillet. What's a skillet?
A skillet's like a frying pan.
Right.
Usually a heavy one.
Break apart and fry until slightly crisp, turning with spatula. Right?
That's great. Those are great directions. I mean, you know exactly what you have to do.
Or microwave oven.
Yeah.
Empty contents of can in a microwave-safe container, cover loosely. Heat on high, which is spelt in capitals, H-I-G-H, in case you don't get the drift of it, for 2.5 to 3 minutes or until hot. Stirring once, halfway through heating. Stir before serving.
There you go. So you can have that with a fried egg when you get home. And it says, very much enjoy it.
And it says what? But I've never eaten an egg in my life.
Oh, right, OK. Well, it's best with an egg.
So it says here, contents, right?
Yeah.
It says a quarter of a cup of chopped celery, oh no, what's this? Oh, sorry, that's how to make cheesy corned beef. That's right, yeah, okay.
That'll be a recipe.
Right, what's in the contents? Oh, well, I don't know. Anyway, do you know what I want to say to you for this?
What do you want to say?
I think it lacks so much thought, and, oh, by the way...
That does not lack thought. I had to go to a shop to buy that.
By the way...
They don't sell that stuff in duty-free, you know.
Listen to this. Best before 2019.
Yeah.
So I can keep this for another 3 years.
You can.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Well, keep it in case of emergency.
But I wanted to say, Mike, I think this is so pathetic and lacks such class. Okay, right. Here we go.
That's about the fourth present I bought you that you've thrown away.
Yeah, it's
you
trash.
You really are a disgrace.
It's trash.
You're an absolute disgrace. I thought you'd like it. Comes in a tin. You eat everything else out of a tin.
No, I don't.
There was no point in me bringing you something nice from America.
No, I don't.
Bottle of champagne. No, you don't drink champagne.
No.
You know, a nice bottle of, I don't know, bourbon. No, don't drink bourbon.
No, don't drink bourbon.
Nice bottle of whiskey. No, don't drink
I've
whiskey.
virtually given up drink. I want you to know that.
I think there's something seriously wrong with you.
No, I want you to know that.
Did Dr. Banner tell you something that you haven't shared with the rest of us?
Not at all. He said
Did he say that you were near death if you didn't drink?
Not at all. He said I was in great shape and I intend to stay like that.
Apart from the fat problem, obviously.
Sorry?
Apart from the fat problem that he refers to.
No. He said...
I refer you to paragraph 4 of the letter.
Body mass weight needs a bit of attention, but that's all.
Needs a bit of attention.
That's all. Don't worry about it.
Attention's the word.
What?
Anyway, thanks for your interest in my trip to see you. You haven't asked me about my mother. You haven't asked me about my sister. You haven't asked me about my son. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
How's your mum?
She's very well, thanks.
And how's your sister?
She was very well too.
How's your son?
He's great.
Great. Let's got that out of the way then.
Oh, scumbag. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. You're getting attacked by Celtic fans now for saying that you didn't know Brendan Rodgers was a Celtic fan. They're all saying it's well known that he's a Celtic fan.
Well, it's not down here in England, believe me.
Apparently he grew up as a fan of Celtic and Sheffield Wednesday.
Really?
So, no doubt when he ends up at Sheffield Wednesday, he can say, I've been a supporter of Sheffield Wednesday all my life.
That's right, if he ends up there next. Yeah,
some guy calls himself Hale. Porky, I don't know what you do down there, but Brendan Rodgers has never hidden the fact that he's a Celtic fan. Okay. It's not a question of hiding it, it's just a question of him never really making a big thing of it.
Well, the thing is...
He talks about Liverpool being one of his all-time favourite clubs when he was there.
Well, there is a very strong connection between Liverpool and Celtic, which was forged by Kenny Dalglish mostly, and by the way...
Well, I was at that fantastic Champions League first leg up at Parkhead when all the fans together sang "You'll Never Walk Alone." It was terrific, I have to say.
Sorry.
You're right. What's the matter with you?
I'm about to sneeze.
You're about to sneeze?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, no, that's cool.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you do that, because I've got to talk to
some
Billy...
some dust in the air.
Dust.
Listen, I'll tell you what I was going to tell you.
Well, I've got to talk to Billy Garton now.
They've both got the same theme tune.
Well, you never walk alone.
Yeah, exactly.
I just told you I was at the game where they sang it together.
Right, okay, yeah, right.
You're not even listening to anything I'm saying.
Sorry, I was concentrating on sneezing, but I didn't sneeze.
Concentrating on sneezing. You are a complete and utter wreck.
See, that's mind over matter,
If you were a horse, I would have you shot.
Mind over matter, though.
Honestly.
Didn't sneeze at all.
You're not going to Epsom later on?
I am, actually. I'm going to Epsom after I leave the show here, right? Going to Epsom to see Mr. Brazil and the breakfast crew.
Yeah, who are in Epsom.
They're in Epsom, and they're doing a live show from the main stand.
So you're going on that show, are you?
I'm going on that show, yeah.
Are you going on tomorrow as well, the next day?
Yeah, I'm to do the papers tomorrow morning as well, yeah.
What sort of a state are you going to be in?
Oh, no, I'm in good shape, honestly. I've never felt better. Well, not recently, if you see what I mean. You know what I mean?
Not since you were 36 hours from death.
Well, exactly, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
Let's talk to Mr. Garton. Billy, very good morning to you. How are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Surprised, were you, by the way that things happened over the course of the last 24 hours, or not really?
I keep using the word confused every time I speak to you guys. Just another level of confusion, I think, with what's been a bizarre season. And not surprised. Obviously, the ecstatic nature of the win on Saturday, and then the sort of bizarre turns that came hours after that doesn't surprise me one bit. It's almost been typical of the season generally for United. And, I think, I've thought about this. I've heard a lot of United fans on TalkSport today calling in because I listen all day. And I think some of them are actually not quite being as truthful as they would be with their assessments or feelings of this news that Mourinho is going to be in, because I actually believe that they know it's a gamble, but they're prepared to take the gamble because of what's gone before. And so, for the first time in many a year, I think, there's this, like, almost denial, if you will, by United fans that this is so exciting. And I think we're actually trying to talk it up because I'm not sure that any of us are convinced, that we know what's coming. We're hoping that he's going to be the Messiah that brings us greatness again. But I think if we're all honest in our hearts, we're just not sure.
I think that's right, yeah, because, everyone's being very, very bullish about Mourinho coming, and there doesn't seem to be any doubt that he's going to come. But people are forgetting how it ended at Chelsea, and, it ended faster than it normally ends in any Mourinho kind of situation. I know that there were, outside influences and rows with the physio and all the rest of it. But, it might go horribly wrong.
I think you're right, and I think that's why there's so much bravado at the moment from the United fans. I think we all want a change of some sort, but we're not quite sure whether the change is for the better or for the worse. When David Moyes came in, he was, he was approved and sort of sanctioned by Fergie. So everyone just took that one as like, that was a great idea because Fergie endorsed him. And then, Van Gaal came in and it was like, well, anything's better than Moyes.
Yeah, actually, Billy, I understand what you're saying here, but you've got to understand that Manchester United, which are the biggest club in the world in terms of their ability to earn revenues, 750 million quid alone from Adidas, right? They're the biggest club in the world. They've just appointed the most successful manager in the world. He's got a higher win record than any other manager who's ever managed in the game. So I don't understand how you can have even one Manchester United fan out of the millions they've got worldwide who are saying, oh, this is a bit of a risk. It's not a risk to appoint the best manager going. It's just not a risk. It's the obvious thing to do. And they should have done it 3 years ago.
And I agree. I don't think anyone's declaring that it's a risk, though. I think everybody that I've heard on the radio, and I'm the same, I'm in the same frame of mind, we're all saying fantastic news, bring him on. He's the Messiah. He's going to get us back to winning ways, winning the league. But I think in our hearts, we still have that element of doubt as to, will he change the philosophy of the club? Will he, be reluctant to bring through the youth players and the young players?
Well, you can't turn back on Rashford now. If he turned back on Rashford now, he would definitely be signalling that, I won't accept anything that's gone before we start again.
No,
and Mourinho, that is a bad way to go about it.
Mourinho has done things like that in the past, hasn't he?
Well, no, I don't think he has. I don't think he's gone to a club and suddenly nobbled, young players coming through.
Very few Chelsea, academy players ever played for Mourinho.
I agree that he's not got a great track record of initiating the debuts of young players and drawing them into the first team pool, so to speak. But Rashford is now an established first team player, so I think it's a bit different, Billy.
Well, I think you're right, but I also think that he, in the past, has been guilty of his way or the highway, and I think, his own stubbornness in the past has been one of the things that maybe has gotten him his success, because he's not, bought into anyone else's philosophy. He's brought his own philosophy and his own ways, and I think my hope, and this might be, again, wishful thinking, but my hope is that this episode at Chelsea has actually allowed him to sort of assess his own performances and his own attitude towards going into a club, and that, we might be getting him at a good time here, because, he's not the guy that's on the king of the hill at the moment. No. He's actually coming with his, I wouldn't say his tail between his legs, but certainly not with that arrogance and his chest puffed out.
Yeah, I mean, he's not coming in. He's coming in as a manager. He's coming in as a manager who last worked in the Premier League and almost took Chelsea into the relegation zone. But also, when we've seen players not playing for Louis van Gaaal, or not playing for Roberto Martinez at Everton, or not playing for Pellegrini at Manchester City, we're in an era now, aren't we, Billy, where players can be very much more important in how long a manager stays at a club as well. Because if the players, for some reason, don't get on with him, he's the one that will go.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, we've never really seen that at United, certainly not in my recollection, because I think that feeling that the club is bigger than the players and anyone at the club, and that's always been, I mean, you heard Fergie say it numerous times, and it was drilled into us when I was playing there with some of the players. I remember he let, when he first came in, Fergie, he let Paul McGrath and Norman Whiteside, go, and they were like, club heroes at the time, but as has been a United tradition, nobody's bigger than the club, and so I would doubt that feeling that player power will. I mean, even with this situation with Van Gaal, I mean, you hear that there's rumblings going on under the surface, but nothing did surface, and nothing came out that was to the detriment of the success of the team, and the huge irony of winning the FA Cup just proves that, in my opinion. They all pulled together, and his celebration at the end with the players and everybody involved in the club was not that of a man that was looking with any retribution or with any ill will towards the club or the players. It was just satisfaction of doing the job,
Yeah, indeed.
And as far as Van Gaal's treatment is concerned, I mean, there seems to be sort of two schools of thought here. I mean, my particular view on managers getting fired is that it's a tough old business, and that's why they give you £5 million to walk away. So there's really not much point in being upset about it. But do you think he'll come back in any kind of capacity managerially in this country? Because Everton need a new manager. Why does he go there?
I think he made it very clear when he came in, right, that he was almost like in the twilight of his career, and this was going to be the last hurrah. And I mean, a guy that's been as successful as him has had the long, managerial career. I'm not sure that he would be wanting to put himself through the mill again. And I mean, he's probably thought he's seen it all in the game, but this has probably opened his eyes to even more sort of drama that he probably ever could have imagined. And I think that his declaration that he was done after this job, to me, will probably be a true one.
Excellent stuff. Billy, thank you very much indeed. Billy Garton there, former Man United player, with his views on what's going on at Manchester United and whether Jose Mourinho will be brilliant. By the way, there's a basketball game I'm going to tell you about in a moment.
Oh, really?
Which is very, very exciting.
Well, don't worry, because nobody cares.
It's the Eastern Conference playoffs. And,
who's playing?
Cleveland against Toronto.
Really?
Which is very exciting.
Fantastic.
People have been asking me to keep them updated on it, so I'll give you an update very shortly.
Not many people would have asked for that,
honestly. It's game 4. It's currently 20 points apiece. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Talk Sport, we are the Two Mikes. Coming up in the next hour, we'll be talking about time travel with a scientist, with a professor of physics, funnily enough. Let me read you a couple of tweets and texts that have come in. Jim says this one, rather bizarrely. He says, MG's dissing of the prestige of the FA Cup stems from the fact that he clearly doesn't like Manchester United, and he's clearly gutted that they won the Cup. I don't know why you're so clear about that. Contrary to his prediction that they would lose, which wasn't my prediction. He said a prediction that was, of course, based purely on wishful thinking. Well, Jim, first of all, I predicted they would win. Second of all, I don't hate Manchester United. In fact, I used to support them when I was a kid.
Yes.
And I'm dissing the prestige of the FA Cup because everybody is now clearly doing that. You don't fire a manager who's just won the FA Cup if you have any respect for the trophy. I wouldn't have thought. That's what I would say.
Guess what tweet I put out the minute Smalling went off?
Which one? What, Mike Smalling? as he was.
Yes, Mike Smalling. Yes, I said that in 1985, Manchester United went down to 10 men in extra time and won 1-0 against Everton. A prediction. And what happened? They won with 10 men against Crystal Palace.
2-1.
Yeah, that was pretty brilliant, wasn't it?
No.
Pretty brilliant,
Not at all. Hear about this. This is pretty brilliant from Russ in Birkenhead, because you said how you were switching between the Scottish Cup final and the English one.
Yeah.
Hey, Porky says you were switching from one cup final to the other, were you? Unless you were watching
different times.
Unless you were watching the Scottish final on delay, it doesn't make any sense.
No, that's
Hibs Rangers kicked off at 3 p.m.
It's true.
Palace United was at 5:30.
It's absolutely true.
So you sure you didn't have a drink at the weekend?
No, I think what you find is the official coverage on BBC started at 4 o'clock, right?
Of the FA Cup.
Yes.
So you were switching from the actual coverage.
The build-up started at 4 o'clock, and the real action in the Scottish Cup final happened at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So that would have been like 4:45 or something like that. You see what I mean?
Well, it's still 45 minutes before the other game started.
Yeah, no, but all the action...
Wasn't there some problem with the singing of the national anthem?
Oh, the poor girl who was put up on the stage to sing it, she missed her cue.
Right.
So, sometimes... I mean, I've had it myself. You freeze in that moment
You've
when...
had it yourself when you've been invited to sing the national anthem ahead of a football
final?
No,
but sometimes when I'm recording something and involves singing, and somebody gives you a cue, it's either a finger cue
but you're not a professional singer.
No, well, I'm close to being one, and when you miss your cue, you feel like a dolt.
Yeah, how close would you say you are to being a professional singer?
Well, I would say I've got all the...
Like about from here to Hadrian's Wall?
I think I've got all the attributes.
You've got all the attributes?
Yeah, if I trained a bit, I wouldn't have a problem. Yeah. I still believe I can sing for the United Kingdom in the Eurovision Song Contest.
Yeah, well, you still believe that you look like Brad Pitt and you're 5'10".
Well, walk out the door! Turn around now! You're not welcome anymore! You're the one who tried to hurt me with goodbye. Did you think I'd crumble? Did you think I'd lay down and die?
A bit of reaction coming into your disgraceful treatment of my gift once again.
Oh, yes.
Ernie says, hip hip hooray, the old Porky is back. Hashtag plank means being rude and obnoxious and nasty,
what a
which is what you always are.
Gesture, bring me a tin of corned beef hash.
You like stuff out of a tin.
Why'd you bother putting that in your luggage when it didn't get heavy?
Well, because you like stuff out of a tin.
Rubbish.
I thought you'd like it.
Absolute
Zobon says this.
Disgraceful insult to me. I'm not taking it.
Porky's upset because you didn't bring him lean ham and frozen peas.
Yeah, well, you can get that in this country, thanks. Don't need your corned beef hash from the States. You can shove it.
Brit in Bangkok says, nice Australian-American accent there, Porky, with the hash instructions.
Yeah, I thought
a couple of other people. And then the Time Traveller says this. How about a topic for the quiz this week? The London Underground. I predict 0 out of 10.
Well, I have to admit, it's not my strong point.
See, I knew all about the London Underground because I told you I did a project on it when I was 10.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I get dyslexic when it comes to the
I studied the London Underground map, and I actually had memorised almost every station and every line. And even if you ask me where to get from one point A to point B, I think I can still tell you.
Really?
And Johnny says Porky was expecting something from Tiffany's.
Oh, yes.
Have you noticed, by the way, that since I'm back in here, I'm now coughing again?
Yeah, I know you are. Yeah,
I spent the whole weekend not coughing.
Well, let me tell you this. I did that show with Jason Cundy, my old pal, on Saturday. It was Clash of the Titans, 3-hour show. Yes.
You managed not to offend anyone, did you? You didn't offer violence to anyone like you did with Martin Lipton.
Do you know what I found out?
What did you find out?
The fourth member of the Titans, it was Jason Cundy, myself, Alvin Martin, and Bob Mills.
Bob Mills, yes.
Now, Bob Mills is usually a sort of guest on the Colin Murray show.
Right. Was he in the chair? Was he? Or was Jason?
No. Jason Cundy was doing that.
Okay.
So Bob's sitting opposite.
He's an Orient fan, isn't he?
He is an Orient fan, but this is what's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And we were asked to name our favourite cup final. It was on Cup Final Day. And I said, well, it was the forgotten cup final for me, 1966, when Everton beat Sheffield Wednesday, 2-0 down, 1-3-2.
Not forgotten because of the World Cup.
Exactly. Won the World Cup 6 weeks later, at the same ground, Wembley, and Bobby Moore lifted the World Cup trophy, so that's fine. So, anyway, when it came to Bob, he said, actually, that was mine as well. I said, oh, why? What's your connection with that? He said, Chester. I said, Chester? He said, yes, I was born and brought up in Chester.
Was he?
Yes.
And you didn't know that?
I didn't know that,
There you go. Did he go to Chester School for Boys or whatever?
No, this is the interesting thing. I said, actually, Bob, I came from part Chester called Hoole. He said, yes, I know you did. He said, so did I.
Really?
I said, really? He said, yes.
What a coincidence.
He said, and in fact, he said, do you remember Andy Wilde?
But he doesn't sound anything like you.
No, he doesn't sound anything like me at all.
Are you about the same age then? He's younger than you, isn't he?
No, I think
about the same age?
About the same age. He said, do you remember Andy Wilde? I said, Andy Wilde? I said, he was my best mate. I said, he lived in Clare Avenue, which was round the corner from where I lived in Laurel Grove.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, he's my best mate as well.
Really?
I said, what? He said, I lived around the other corner.
Well, how come you didn't know if you were both best mates of the same guy?
I've no idea.
You must have known him. You must have seen him at some point.
Absolutely remarkable. And then I said, well, hang on, where did you actually live? And I said, but my other best mate, Kev Little, lived there. He said, yeah, he was one of my friends as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't know him.
How could you not have known him?
I've no idea.
That's really weird.
And I tell you, the interesting thing is, those mates...
But he doesn't sound like you, so I presume he moved away.
I'm going to tell you that in a minute. So the interesting thing is, our best mates that he talked about, those two, they went to a really slovenly, terrible secondary modern called Overley.
Uh-huh.
It was terrible. If you ended up at Overley, it was like going to Borstal, you know what I mean?
Right.
Now, there were three schools in Chester. There was Overley.
Yeah.
There was the King's School Chester, which was the top-class school that I went to.
Yes,
but in between, there was the Chester Grammar School. That was the middle one.
Okay.
Bob went to the Chester Grammar School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he was a grammar school boy.
So that was why you maybe didn't know him so well.
Anyway, he came down here at 16 and wanted to get into the musical journalism business right away.
Yeah.
Okay, so his family moved to the south after, he'd been to Chester Grammar School. Decided not to go back to school when he got here. Decided to branch out and try and become a musical journalist.
Yeah.
And the first time he went and applied for a job at somewhere like NME or something like that, they said, with that accent?
Yeah.
Sorry. So he went off and started walking around places like Leighton.
And started talking like a Cockney.
Yes, exactly.
Right, because that's how he now sounds.
That's right, exactly,
right.
Yeah.
And did that work then? Did he get himself
apparently.
into the music business?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So
how bizarre. But that just tells me that your kind of friendships with some of these guys were rather transparently kind of shallow.
I've no idea.
Because why wouldn't you know anybody else that they were friends with?
I don't know. I've no idea.
Well,
honestly.
let me give you a clue.
Yeah.
I suggest it was because you don't care about anybody else's friends. You only care about what they can do for you.
Well, not
so if
really.
they could do something for you, you would dissuade them from hanging around with anybody else. That's the sort of guy you would do.
Our mate Andy Weil, we both told the same story about him, right?
Yeah.
He was a great footballer and he had trials with Burnley and all sorts of clubs, But eventually he signed for Arsenal as an apprentice. So we told exactly the same story. On the first day of the season, after Arsenal won the double in 1971, we're sitting there at home, both with our dads, to watch Match of the Day. The opening sequences come from Highbury Stadium.
Right.
And before the match starts, the apprentices all run out holding the league trophy and the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And the guy holding the FA Cup was our mate, Andy Wild, who lived round the corner from us.
Really?
It was incredible.
That's bizarre.
It
Does
is
that
bizarre.
not give you sort of the spooky feeling?
Well, I don't know. It's really, really odd. Listen, I want to tell you about somebody who's died while you've been away. It's very, very sad.
What's that?
Well,
by the way, I've got a quick correction for you,
yeah.
which is coming from Ian in Belfast.
Right.
Who says Kevin Moran was not sent off in extra time. He was sent off in the second half.
Yes, I know that.
Well, you said he was sent off in extra time.
No, I didn't. I said that Chris Smalling was sent off in extra time. So
Mike Smalling.
I don't need correct. Mike Smalling.
Mike Smalling.
Now listen, I'll tell you something that happened. Somebody who died while you were away, which is very, very sad.
Yeah. Well, it's always a bit sad when somebody dies.
Yeah, I can't actually remember his name, but
I can't remember his name.
I'm going to tell you
he's
who
not
he
another
is.
friend of yours from your boyhood.
No. Guess what?
Somebody famous.
Quite often on this show, in various guises, we use, my name's Mr. Ed. Mr. Ed, the TV
the sports
series.
bar they use it, yeah.
That's right. Well, they use it in other programmes.
We don't use it.
No, we don't use it. I think I've heard it in other daytime programmes,
Are you sure?
Yeah, Breakfast used to use it, that's right. Here is Mr. Ed.
They had the talking horse.
The talking horse, yeah. Well, he hasn't died because he died about 40 years ago, the horse,
the horse.
But the human...
Not the guy that did the voice.
No, the human who was his owner has died.
Well, he was the voice.
No, not the voice. That was some actor who was anonymous. The bloke in the Mr. Ed show who used to go out to the stable and feed Mr. Ed.
I don't really remember Mr. Ed very well, actually.
Well, Mr. Ed was a horse who used to stand in the stable. He never went out to the stable.
Right.
You never saw him galloping across a field or some with a saddle on.
He was too busy giving interviews.
Yeah, he was too busy talking in his stable, with his stable door open and talking, complete Biloxios and all that kind of stuff.
What did they ask him? What sort of things did he say?
Oh, wisdom, all that kind of stuff,
okay.
yeah. But the bloke who used to, put his feed bag on...
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, Mr. Ed didn't have a feed bag. Mr. Ed had human food and that kind of stuff,
Cutlery, crockery.
Well, not cutlery and crockery, but I mean, he would eat like a sandwich off your hand or something,
Right.
And, but anyway, the bloke who did it, age about 92, he's died, which is sad, really.
Well, I've never really heard of the guy, and I have to say, it's not one that would have particularly caught my eye.
No. I mean, Mr. Ed was legendary. It was such a brilliant idea.
Well, I'd sort of heard of it, but I don't think I ever watched it, because I think it was slightly ahead before my time.
I mean, you've got
as a child.
You've got to remember that the most famous animal in the world at the time was Lassie, the Wonder Dog.
Yes.
And
not the Wonder Dog, no, there was a Wonder Horse. Oh, there was Champion the Wonder Horse.
Champion the Wonder Horse, that's right, yeah. But Lassie the dog, right.
What's that, Lassie?
Yeah.
Barn's on fire.
No, I tell you what. The only animal that was better at communicating with humans was Skippy, the bush kangaroo.
Yeah, right. What about Flipper?
Skippy.
What about Flipper?
Flipper, yeah. Skippy, the bush kangaroo. And then Daktari came along.
Daktari was great.
They started talking to
like Daktari.
lions, Clarence the cross-eyed lion, and all that kind of stuff. But then somebody thought...
I used to have a little toy Daktari Land Rover.
Yeah.
Which was like striped, I think it was green and white, green and black stripes.
Well, they say that Daktari, which was like Australian, wasn't it?
Daktari?
Daktari?
No, I don't think it was.
It was, honestly. It was. Oh, no, that was Skippy.
No, Skippy was Australian.
Skippy,
and Flipper was Australian.
Oh, was it? Okay.
But I think... No, Flipper was American. I think Daktari was South African.
No, African. He was African. Daktari, yeah.
I mean, they were like English actors, I think.
Daktari. Daktari.
He didn't say it like that.
No, that was the theme song. Yeah. Daktari.
By the way, it's 36-28 to Toronto.
Oh, brilliant.
7:40 gone in the second quarter.
Delighted.
Hey, how about this from Jim, right? Who's still having a go at me for being a Man United hater. He says, Dear me, MG, that old chestnut. I used to support Man United as a child. So why did you stop supporting them? Well, I stopped supporting them because I stopped going to football around about the early 70s when it started to get so violent that my father thought I might get seriously injured. And then he says, people who are genuine supporters don't ever cease their support. Exactly. It's all a bit fishy, he says. You never have a good word to say about Man United, which sort of gives you away, mate.
Yeah, of course he does.
Do you think he's getting a bit paranoid about Man United?
Well...
I have plenty of good things to say about Man United.
I mean, look...
And as anybody who knows me will say, I love Jose Mourinho. So if Jose Mourinho becomes the manager of Manchester United, I'm sure I'll have a lot of good things to say.
What do you think is going to happen to the Giggsy situation?
Well, I'd be amazed if they get rid of him. Because I don't see where he would go.
No, but he might have to leave.
Well, why would he leave, then?
Well, I'll tell you why. He's 42 now, right?
Right.
Now, OK, you're accusing me of quoting Everton statistics and that sort of thing.
Statistics?
But by the age of 38, Howard Kendall had won 2 league championships.
Yes, but he didn't play for as long as Giggs, though, did he?
No, he didn't. This is the very good point.
Yeah.
But let me just tell you this. Kenny Dalglish had won a league and cup double as a manager by the time he was 35.
Okay.
So Giggs is now 42, and he's not even got his foot on the first rung. So he has got to make a break if he wants to be a manager.
You mean he
has
to go down the leagues, you think?
Well, I'm not saying down the leagues. I'm saying that, I mean, look, if Mourinho just does his standard 3 years, then Giggs is going to be 45.
Right.
Now, that's getting on a bit to appoint somebody as first-time manager of another club.
Yeah, I get that.
So
but why would you appoint him first-time manager of any club in the Premier League now? He doesn't have any experience, really.
Yeah, but he's such a massive name.
But that doesn't mean he's any good, though, does it?
Well, it means that he understands football in a way that a lot of other people don't, because he's won, I think it was 11 Premier League titles.
Yeah, well, he has. I mean,
maybe even 13,
he's a fantastic
I'm not sure.
Player, but it doesn't make him a great manager, though,
Well, I've always said that, but how many chairmen go around appointing great players just because they are great players?
Yeah. Well, I know, that's the problem. Well, would you want him as a manager of Everton?
No.
Thank you. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
I must admit, I wouldn't have recognised that straight off unless you'd heard the words Duck
See,
Toddy.
I told you, didn't I? It was Duck Toddy.
It was mostly an English. I think it was mostly an English cast, though, wasn't it?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it was. Listen, I found out more information about Mr. Ed's guy.
Oh, yeah.
He was English.
Was he?
Yeah, Alan Young, genial actor.
Right.
Who found fame as human sidekick
so he was
to
an
a
actor,
talking
then.
horse.
He wasn't really the owner of the horse, then.
Well, I never said he was.
You said he was the guy that owned the horse.
In the series, you idiot.
Oh, right.
The plot was, right, Alan Young. Yeah. British-born actor.
Yeah.
And he played Wilbur. Wilbur Post. That was the name of the guy. And the plot was that he moves into the country.
So he had to put the accent on then, presumably.
Well, I don't think he had one. I think he just sounded normal. But so he moves to somewhere like Connecticut, where you've just been, right? And there's a big barn at the bottom of the garden. And he goes and opens the barn. There's a white horse in there.
Yeah.
And he finds it's a talking horse, the world's only talking horse.
This is the plot of the show.
Yeah, that's the plot of the show. Yeah.
Well, why wasn't the talking horse getting away from the barn?
Well, I've no idea.
Because presumably he could talk. He could ask somebody to open the door.
Oh, I see. This is what happens. Look, although Ed, a golden palomino, this is the horse, right, called Bamboo Harvester. Golden Palomino called Bamboo Harvester?
Bamboo Harvester?
Yeah, I don't know. Could talk, right?
Well, he couldn't really talk.
Well, he was voiced by the former cowboy actor Alan Lane, right?
Yes.
Who never got a credit for doing the voiceover for Mr. Ed. But the way
they couldn't ruin the magic, I suppose.
No.
They thought the horse could really talk.
No, that's right. But you see, the way the plot worked was that this guy, Alan Young, who played Wilbur or Post, was the only person who could hear Mr. Ed talking.
Oh, I see. So it wasn't so not everybody could hear him.
No, it was magic.
I see.
Yeah.
So did he solve crimes like Lassie then, and sort of discover things that were going on?
I'm not sure.
I don't really remember watching it at all.
It went from 61 to 66, 143 episodes. Wilbur and his equine companion were America's hottest comedy duo. One actor who made his debut at Mr. Ed was Clint Eastwood.
Really?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Now, a couple more tweets for you.
Came from North Shields.
What, the horse?
No, Alan Young, the actor.
Oh, okay. Well, he would have had a North Shields accent, would he? In those days, they all had that kind of mid-Atlantic thing
I suppose so.
going on.
Yeah.
William says this, MG, I think Porky would only be happy if you brought back a Rolex watch for him or arranged delivery of a Mercedes.
Yeah, well, that's closer to it.
Well, I could have bought you something expensive in the duty-free, but I didn't really feel like it. Here's one from Mickey, who says, I usually vote Porky in winners and losers, but after a disgraceful reaction to MG's gift, I will now reconsider.
Well, hang on, you haven't heard of my winners and losers yet, have
you?
It
doesn't matter. He's now taken against you because of your disgraceful behaviour. Now, we're going to do listography, right? These are the three things we pick to discuss in homage to the new day.
Yes.
And in fact, somebody sent me a picture today from New York,
right,
of a place that was quite near. I can't remember. No, it was a still from Crocodile Dundee, I think, when it was filmed in Manhattan.
Right.
And they said, look at the name of the paper.
Yeah.
And it looked like the New Day, but it was Newsday. Do you remember Newsday?
Yeah, of course I do. That was Long Island paper, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Printed and published out there.
Now, a couple of suggestions are 3 favourite toys as a child.
Right.
3 things that make your life better.
Yeah.
3 people who have let you down the most.
Yeah.
3 regrets in your newspaper careers or in life in general.
Yeah.
Apart from the man who must not be named, your 3 most difficult interviews, either on radio or in the newspaper. Your 3 favourite New York City buildings since I've just got back.
Yes.
And let's see. What's your 3 favourite things you have ever been given by people on their deathbed?
I've never been on 3 deathbeds, so we can't do that one.
You've only been on 3 deathbeds of your own, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose so.
3 favourite journeys or biggest waste of time. We did that one, didn't we?
Yes.
So that goes all the way back. So of all of those, did you have any kind of anything that stuck out in your mind?
The 3 favourite toys one's too long ago, in my view, and I don't want to do the 3 people I most dislike because that's too personal or whatever it was.
All right.
I mean, we could do the 3 mistakes we made in newspapers, or your 3 favourite buildings in New York to commemorate your visit there last weekend.
Yeah, we could do that. 3 favourite buildings in New York would be all right.
Go on then.
Should we do that? Well, we'll do it. Once we've had a little think about it. Okay. I don't want to rush you into it.
Okay. Now listen, the new programme's starting on TV.
Oh yeah.
You know, I've
Is it going to be in Porky Vision?
Well, you never know because it was announced whilst you were away. And guess what it's about?
Go. I'll tell you what. Actually, before you do that,
go on.
I made the mistake of downloading because I thought this would be something to do on the plane.
Yes.
A couple of things from the BBC iPlayer,
right,
that I could watch. Right?
Yes.
And so I'd heard this programme called Hinterland was quite good.
Yes.
Have you heard of that?
No.
It's one of these kind of, police sort of detective type shows, right? But what I didn't know is that it's Welsh. It's made in Wales. And so there's quite a lot of Welsh in it.
No.
And actually I watched...
people speaking Welsh?
Yes, people speaking Welsh.
That's a dead language.
Well, I know you always say that, and I always correct you. It's not a dead language. It's very much alive and well in Wales. But it's just bad. It's just awful. It's an awful show. You know, what they've done is they've watched all these...
Badly acted and cheap sets and all that kind of stuff.
They've watched all this... No, it's quite richly done, right? They've watched all these, Scandinavian police dramas, which are all dark and lots of weird music. But, of course, in Scandinavia, the plot lines are quite interesting. You know, it's multi-million-pound, fraud, or it's something to do with, people trying to, blow up the environment. Or terrorism or stuff like this. This was about a guy who drove a bus in a rural part of Wales who was a drug dealer.
Right.
And who was found shot dead in a completely ridiculous situation, having been dragged off his bus in the middle of a field. It was just awful.
Yeah.
And all the acting was terrible, and everyone who was in it, is obviously just standing there practising, trying to look deep. Just terrible. Anyway.
Yeah. But no, that's quite interesting because I'll tell you why. Last week's Porky Vision was Wallander.
Wallander, yes.
Which I said I would never watch.
Yes.
Well, in fact, I was tempted to watch one.
Right.
So I watched
it. But this was the Sir Kenneth Branagh version.
It's Sir Kenneth Branagh, right. Yeah. Now, guess what they've done, right? First of all, I went and looked at a review of the book that this latest one is based on.
Which is Scandinavian, right? Originally.
Scandinavian.
Yeah.
And Wallander, in the book, right, is a detective of great talent, but who is so flawed because His marriage has broken down. He's dabbled in drugs, but he's a perpetual bladderator and alcoholic who, on more than 2 occasions, has been dragged out of the wreck of Volvo cars after crashing them into trees, of which there are a lot in Scandinavia, bladderated, and his mates have had to cover up for him, you know?
Oh, okay.
So that's
a sort of flawed character.
Completely flawed.
This is why I hated this other show, because, I mean, these guys are quite interesting characters.
Yes.
This Welsh guy was just this guy who was just always angry all the time because, you know, he'd lost his daughter and he was having a problem with his wife.
Yeah, nobody speaks Welsh.
It was almost as if they'd taken something like Wallander and just tried to copy it.
Yeah, right. Couldn't find a Welsh hamburger.
But it was all. Guess where it was set?
No.
Ceredigion.
Ceredigion.
And you just go.
Where is Ceredigion?
It's in sort of mid Wales.
Is it? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Out on the coast.
Anyway, back to Wallander. Yeah. So what Sir Kenneth Branagh has done, and he may have had an influence, or he may not. Maybe he's just the lead actor, but you get the feeling he's executive producer as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've turned the bladderator into a deep thinker.
Oh, really?
Who's suffering a bit of depression.
Oh, okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So
because was he not early onset dementia or something like that? You were saying
something like that. Yeah. So where you really should see Wallander sprawled over a cocktail bar at 3 a.m, you know, trying to mumble, you know, profanities to a young lady or something like that.
Because he can't drink, basically.
Yeah, that's right.
Without getting completely bloody.
Yeah, that's right. You see a man staring into the darkness, and you've got to think what's going on in his head.
You don't know why.
Yeah, exactly, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I didn't watch it, because, I only watched it that far, and then thought, this is trash.
Well, if you thought that was bad, you've got to watch this Hinterland thing.
I'll have a look at that.
In fact, you should watch it for one of your future Porky Visions.
That's a good idea,
I'd be
Will.
interested to know what you would think of it.
That'd be great. So this programme, the new programme the BBC are putting on, is about train spotting.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean train spotting. I don't mean that film that was made in Edinburgh, you know, and all
you
that.
mean actual train spotters.
Train spotters, yeah. And I think it's quite good, actually, because I think train spotters get a really hard time.
They do.
They're all, you know, written off as boring anoraks and all that. If they've got a hobby that they like to follow and it's inoffensive, doesn't cause anybody any problems, they don't go around dropping litter or wrecking places, why shouldn't they be allowed to get on with it without being roundly mocked by society?
Something has definitely happened to you.
No.
You've suddenly become all kind of kinder, gentler, you know, more all-encompassing.
Not at all.
Normally you would have called these people weirdos.
No, I've never called them weirdos.
No, but you would normally do that.
Do you know what I saw the other day coming into London? Don't worry about time. Don't worry about time. Coming to London,
Go on.
I changed trains at Clapham Junction.
Yeah.
Load of people at the end of the platform with binoculars. And I thought, well, they must be train spotters. Do you guess what they were?
What were they?
They were aeroplane spotters.
I was going to say aeroplane spotters are quite...
Apparently, Clapham Junction station is directly on the inward route to Heathrow.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Well, sometimes when you come down to Heathrow, you fly right along the river.
Right,
Which is a great way to come into London, actually.
It is, yeah.
Because you pass all the big buildings that you love.
Yeah.
But we'll do listography on the buildings that we love in New York coming up next on TalkSport.
The Two Mikes. Simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
I don't mind, but you better promise me I'll be back in time. I gotta get back in time. Don't bet your future on one roll of the dice.
That ring any bells with you, that particular song?
This sounds like that Robert guy.
Robert?
Yeah.
You think about Robert Palmer?
Yes.
No.
Not him?
No, it's Huey.
Oh, Huey Louis.
Huey Louis.
Huey, yeah, that's him.
Huey Lewis in the news.
That's it, yeah. Okay.
Back in time. Well, it was the old, Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future type.
That's the one.
Music, because we're going to now talk about whether you can go back in time or indeed forward in time. I don't know if you saw that picture a while ago that a few people got quite excited about. There was a picture of Mike Tyson fighting sort of back in the 80s.
Well,
and it looked as though there was a smartphone being held up by somebody behind him. And people started this nonsensical conversation about, could this mean that somebody's travelled back in time with a smartphone?
You know, there's been an even more graphic picture than that. Who's the famous film producer who made, Birds and Psycho and all that?
Oh, Hitchcock.
Hitchcock.
Yeah.
In an Alfred Hitchcock film, that to this day they show this frame of a woman walking past on a street in something like Chicago, something like that, with a mobile phone in her hand.
And which movie was that?
I don't know, one of the ones he made.
Dial for Murder, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
In London?
Something like that.
Really?
And they play it over and over again. And in fact, in the end, it's something else. It's an umbrella or something like that.
Well, it is, yeah.
But everybody says it's a phone.
It's very obvious that this is not a phone. And if you look very closely, it just looks like a camera. But let's talk to Ronald Mallett.
Indeed.
Because he is, of course, an expert on these matters. He's a professor of physics at the University of Connecticut.
Yep.
Ronald, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Thank you very much
Ronald.
indeed. I mean, these pictures that we're talking about and the scene from the Hitchcock movie that my colleague here is mentioning is really just an excuse to talk about all this stuff because nobody really seriously believes that the guy in the Tyson picture is holding a smartphone and has travelled back in time, do they?
Yeah, well, the thing is that I got some good news and some bad news.
All right, can we have the good news first, please?
Right. The good news is that, yes, time travel is scientifically possible.
Right.
The bad news is that picture doesn't prove anything.
Right.
And in fact, when I was looking at it very, very carefully, it reminded me of a Polaroid camera that I had back in that time.
Right.
Because if you look carefully at it, it almost looks like the picture. When you take one of those old Polaroid cameras, and some of them have very beautiful design, when you take the picture, the photo shoots out in the front and hangs down.
Right.
If you look at that carefully, it actually looks like someone has taken a Polaroid picture, and the Polaroid is coming down. If you look at it carefully, it looks like so for me, I would actually say it's more likely a Polaroid camera picture, or something taken by a Polaroid camera. But from a scientific standpoint, unless you can actually look at it carefully and talk to the person who did it and everything like that. But as I said, as far as I'm concerned, that's not so. And there's another two reasons for that. I mean, not just simply because of the fact that it does look like a Polaroid camera with the film coming out, but scientifically, we know based on Einstein's theories, yes, it is possible to travel into the future and in the past. Not only is that possible, but we've actually been able to do it into the future.
How have you been able to do it into the future?
Yeah, we've been able to do it definitely into the future, not just simply with mathematics, but we've been able to actually do it. Not in the Large Hadron Collider, this machine that is in Switzerland.
Yep.
Every day that they turn that machine on, every time they turn it on, they're sending subatomic particles close to the speed of light. Normally, some of these particles would only live for fractions of a second. But according to Einstein, the faster something moves towards the speed of light, the more time slows down. That actually means that these particles, in a sense, if it were like us, they age less. And so that means that we're actually sending these subatomic particles in the future. We've actually been able to do it on a large scale with jets, passenger jets. Back in 1971, they had passenger jets going at close to the speed of sound, and they had clocks on it. Well, not ordinary. They were, very special, clocks. But the thing is that what they found was that these atomic clocks actually slowed down on these passenger jets. So we do know, and this was only by fractions of a second, when we can have rockets, and NASA and others are looking at rockets that can go close to the speed of light eventually, we'll actually see the effect that you see in the movies. That is to say that time will slow down. And as I said, we've actually done it.
Well, Ronald, isn't
is a whole different thing.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, just as a non-scientist, I think I've got the principle of time travel. All we've got to do is invent a machine that can go faster than the speed of light, i.e., invent a rocket, fire it off Earth, make it go faster than the speed of light round the Earth about 2,000 times.
How easy is that going to be then?
Well, it's not easy, and then the rocket will land before it's taken off. I mean, that's the basic principle, isn't it?
Not quite. Here's the problem: you can't go faster than the speed of light. What Einstein's theory shows is that we can go close to the speed of light, but we can't go faster than the speed of light in a vacuum. I notice how I said that, in a vacuum.
Yeah.
You can actually go faster than the speed of light in a medium, in fact. But in a vacuum, you can't. And the thing is that it's actually not like the sound barrier. This is actually built into the basic equations. You know that famous equation equals MC squared? that equation works.
Doesn't sound like you do. You've known that one, right?
Yeah, I know that equation. Yeah, but if we fired a rocket to Mars that went faster than the speed of light, it looped round.
You just said you can't go faster.
Hang on. In a vacuum. You said in a vacuum. I'm saying outside of a vacuum.
Well, in space.
Yeah, outside of a vacuum.
Space is that's what I'm saying. Space is a vacuum.
Only if you hit a black hole.
No, all of it is.
No,
all of it's a vacuum.
No, it's not.
It's a whole different thing.
No,
a black hole is a whole different thing. No. And the thing is that there's two different ways of getting time to slow down.
Space is anti-vacuum. There is no vacuum in space because there's no atmosphere in space.
This guy is a professor of physics.
He's wrong.
It's effectively a vacuum. You can't exceed the speed of light in space. Yeah. And the thing is that there's two ways of making time slow down. One is with speed. Mm-hmm. The other is with gravity. That's what you're referring to with black holes. When you get close to a black hole, you can also make time slow down, and you can actually go into the future.
Right. Exactly. But that's what I just said.
But Ronald, I don't think you have actually. But what you're describing as well, Ronald, is that you're able to make time slow down. You can only kind of, I suppose, travel in time in a very small way, which is kind of not the point, is it? Because if you want to travel in time, you want to travel forwards, you want to travel backwards. And I presume the fact that we haven't been visited by anyone from the future means that we haven't discovered how to do it, and maybe we won't discover how to do it.
Well, not necessarily. It could be that at other advanced planets. I mean, scientists now believe that there are planets out there that are orbiting other stars. And so potentially there could be civilizations out there that are more advanced than we are. The difference is that even though they may have developed time travel, space is vast. The likelihood that they found us, that's the difference.
Oh, I see. So they might be traveling around in time, but they just haven't come here.
Right. You got it.
Interesting. Okay. So, I mean, if there is the capability to slow time down at the moment, say, by a few seconds or even by a minute or so, I mean, how soon before you can do something with that?
Well, the thing is that it depends on the size of things. With subatomic particles, we can slow time down by more than just a few minutes. We can actually slow it down a huge amount. We can send these particles into the future. We can make them live 10, 20 times longer than they normally would. It's just that on the human scale, we haven't developed speeds that are close. In these particle accelerators, they can actually get speeds right up to the speed of light. And we will eventually be able to do that. But it's just that on a human scale, we need the technology. But eventually that will happen. I mean, technologically, it's just a matter of technology.
Yeah, I agree. Just invent the rocket with an engine powerful enough to go faster than the speed of light. And then we've done it.
No. With an engine with a rocket that can go close to the speed of light.
Yeah, but then we've got to get over that, that particular problem that Einstein's talking about. Somebody brighter than Einstein will be born soon and get over that.
Well, I mean, the other thing, presumably...
No, we can already do that. We already know how to go back in time. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's also based on Einstein's theory. If you have a rotating black hole actually can twist space itself. And it can actually twist time into a loop. Normally, we think of time as going along a straight line. We're all in this river of time going from the past, the present, to the future. But imagine if we could twist time into a loop, so that we could go from the past to the present to the future. But since we've made time into a loop, we can get back into the past. So Einstein's theories do allow for time travel.
Yeah, sure. If we could travel to the end, of the universe, we'd be time travelers because it's infinite.
Well, so how can you get to the end of it?
Well, we can't. That's what I mean. You have to go round in a circle and come back. That's what I mean.
No, you don't have. Yeah, but that still would just take you to the future. If you have a rotating black hole, for example, you could actually go back in time without going to the edge of the universe.
I wouldn't like to be a time traveller because it'd be exciting to go either backwards or forwards in time, but then when I wanted to come back to today, the machine might, screw up on me and I couldn't get back.
There's always that worry. Ronald, thank you very much indeed. That's Ronald L. Mallet. He's PhD research professor of physics at the University of Connecticut.
Mallet, as in Timmy. Timmy Mallet.
Yes, yeah. Well, I didn't ask if there's any relation.
I mean,
you would probably have to do what you do with all appliances, like toasters and kettles and anything electrical that you have, you just buy 3 of them.
That's right.
So you'd have 3 time machines.
But if you went back
if one of them broke down, you could just use another one.
If you went back to King Henry VIII's court, it'd be good for a day or two, a bit of Rogerisation, bit of banqueting, all that kind of stuff. Then you say, right, thanks, Henry.
Yeah, but that's not really the point, is it?
So you go back down to the gardens at Hampton Court Palace, and all of a sudden your TARDIS box has been smashed up by some, mad guy in a boat who's just arrived on the River Thames. You know what I mean? It'd be bad news.
You think about this a lot?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Astonishing. Yeah. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
How many kinds of sweet flowers grow in an English country garden? I'll tell you now of some that I know, and those I miss you'll surely pardon.
Now, of all the places where people listen to this show, right, I think I've found a winner if we ever had a competition. Max is sending us this picture from Australia. Mm-hmm. He's on board a submarine in the National Maritime Museum.
Where?
In Australia.
Oh, right, okay.
And he's listening to the show.
He's on a Royal Navy submarine.
He's on a submarine. I presume it's an Australian Navy submarine.
Australian Navy submarine, yeah.
We haven't really got very many left, have we? And
we have. We've got loads of submarines.
He's at the Australian National Maritime Museum.
Excellent.
And he's from Perth, so I don't know whether that means that's in Perth or whether it's elsewhere. You might have thought, being a student of naval architecture, I thought you would have known.
I think Perth is the head of the is the base for the Royal Australian Navy.
So it'd be then Perth then, probably.
Yeah, because that other place, the Fremantle is just up
the America's Cup.
That's right. It's just up there. So that's very interesting. No, we've got loads of submarines. It's just surface ships we don't have anymore.
Yeah.
But we're way ahead on submarines. After America, we've got more submarines than any other nation, including Russia.
Really?
Yeah. But
sure?
You never see them, you see, because they're under the water all the time.
Oh.
So you don't know how many we've got. We've got a lot of them. We believe them to be very useful. In fact, I'm still amazed that during the Falklands War, and this is probably what would happen these days, we didn't just say to Argentina, if you don't remove your troops from the Falklands, we will take out every military base in Argentina, which we could do with all of our submarines.
Well, I suppose they didn't want to get that involved in a war, though, did they?
Well, the war was...
but to attack the mainland of Argentina instead of just defending the Falklands.
Well, they were sinking our ships. So,
but that would have been a very different thing.
Yeah, well, that
would have been an escalation.
But it wouldn't have happened because the Argentinians would have said, OK, we'll withdraw, would have given reasons to withdraw. Anyway, that's on battle technology.
Yeah.
Listen, we're playing music about gardens, right?
I heard that.
It's a
Chelsea Flower Show.
Chelsea Flower Show, exactly, coming up. But, I've expressed so much fear that gardens are going, just disappearing.
Well, you haven't got a garden.
Sorry?
You haven't got a garden.
I've got a roof garden.
That's not a garden.
And also, my penthouses are in the grounds of very nicely landscaped
shared
developments.
Areas.
Developed. Anyway, look, funny you should say that, but one of the reasons why gardens are just being neglected and disappearing is because of the fact that people rent so much property these days, and therefore... people who rent property don't have the same respect for it as people who own it.
Well, I suppose
and therefore the
the
gardens just go to hell.
There's some truth to that, but if you rent a garden flat, for example, most of the people that I know that would rent a garden flat love the idea that it's got a garden, so they look after the garden.
But what I'm saying is people who rent houses, right, got a garden front and back, can't be bothered to keep it up.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny you should say about the Chelsea Flower Show, because what the Royal Horticultural Society is doing is launching a guide to encourage people to restore their front gardens. Okay. So many of them have been paved over, and then the water doesn't drain away, the flood...
That's not good.
The street floods.
No.
So restore them to grass, right?
Yeah.
But also, the point is that a lost generation of gardeners in their 20s, 30s and 40s have never, ever had the joy of planting a bulb,
really,
or cutting the grass, or seeing roses being pruned, or anything like that, because gardens have never existed for them.
Or because they've just never had a garden.
Never had a garden.
Well, I mean, when I was growing
up... And I think that's terrible in this country.
When I was growing up, I lived in a flat, right?
Yeah.
And the house, and in general, had a garden, which was shared. But we spent a lot of time in the garden, because we used to play football there quite a lot.
Yes.
And there was a gardener that used to come and look after it.
Right.
And that was all very nice.
But the point is, if people are not used to gardens, it means that demand for properties with gardens will die out. So, and this is great for developers because...
I don't think so.
No, people, even people in, blocks of flats, like to lean on the balcony and look down upon a garden.
It's nice to have some outdoor space.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Like have barbecues there and all that kind of stuff.
But a shared garden is not as much fun as having one to yourself.
Of course it's not, but what I'm saying is, people now think that the maintenance time taken up to keep a garden in good shape is so unnecessary when you can pave it over. That's what they do.
But surely it's the landlords that are killing off gardens then, because the landlords are too greedy to actually pay a gardener to keep the garden looking nice.
Well, why should a landlord?
Well, because they own the property. They're making the money from the tenants.
Well, hang on, mate. They might own the property, but they don't clean the inside of the property.
No, but if there's a garden, and everyone's so concerned about the garden being lost to history, then surely the landlords are responsible for making sure the gardens are kept up.
No, it's the responsibility of the person who's renting the property.
So somebody rents a house from you,
yes,
and it has a garden,
yes,
right, and they don't look after it. What do?
Enforce in order to get them to, because it's in the tenant's lease that they have to maintain the garden. If they don't,
what you mean? You take them to court?
No. I then hire gardeners to go and do it, and then I take the money out of their rental.
That's nice of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Charming.
Absolutely.
Well,
take out their deposit
have you ever come across this phenomenon where whoever you've rented a house to,
yes,
like, say, for example, the Egyptian doctor
yes,
that has my father's paintings,
yes,
right? Does he not look after his garden?
Well, he's in a communal block anyway, so the gardens are paid for by the service charges, so that's not a problem.
Right.
But, I mean, on occasions when people have left a property that I've owned that's had a garden, if I thought the garden was in a rubbish state afterwards, I get the garden done, then take it out of the deposit money they've left. And if I receive complaints from neighbours about the garden, I then send them an enforcement order and tell them to get it sorted, or I will evict them if they don't keep the garden in good shape. No, I do.
You're such a man of the people.
No, not at all.
So you throw people out of the house for not looking after the
garden?
Yeah,
I would, definitely.
Why don't you just look after the garden?
Because it's not my responsibility.
Why don't you pay a gardener 50 quid once every 2 weeks? He goes around and keeps it up.
It's not my responsibility. If somebody rents a property, they have to maintain it in all forms.
So you don't care about the garden itself?
I care very much about it, and that's why in every tenancy lease that we have, we express that one of the responsibilities is keeping the garden in good shape.
Yeah. Now, I was going to read this out before, but now that you've returned to being nasty again, I'm not sure
I'm not being nasty.
Arnold says this: Porky's been too nice. You don't think he's given up the drink and begun indulging in the wacky backy, do you?
No.
Says Arnold.
No. I wouldn't indulge in anything like that. For goodness' sake, what on earth do you think I am?
How about this from John? He says, if you could go back in time and relive your glory years, would you, or are you both content with your life? I would not. I'm not interested in going back in time.
What glory years?
Well, the ones that you had, I suppose.
All my years have been glory years. That's the point. Which particular glory years do they want me to relive?
Well, maybe he means when you were the supremo of news at the Express.
Yeah, or, that was glorious.
When you were, doing something slightly more important than as you would be perceived to be now.
No, don't be silly. I've run all sorts of media organisations. Yeah. It's all been glorious.
Okay. So
I've got a glorious chapter of life history.
O'Hara says there's a vacuum in Porky's head.
No, there's not.
And Sue in Tunbridge says, Mike G, somehow I don't think Porky's going to get the Nobel Prize anytime soon.
What do you mean?
Maybe you could go into the future and get one.
Every time I told that so-called scientist, professor, wise guy...
Professor of physics,
a fact. At first he said, no, it's not. And then when I said, yes, it is, because there's no atmosphere in space. Oh, yes, well, you're right on that one, but it's covered by black holes. When I said the gravitational problem doesn't affect, space, he said, no, it doesn't. Oh, yes, he admitted I got everything right. It's easy to be a time traveller. Just invent a rocket with an engine that goes faster than the speed of light.
It's easy for you to be a time traveller. You just pretend you are, like you do with everything else that you are.
Ridiculous.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
3 favourite buildings in New York.
Indeed.
I have to say, I'm always warmed by the sight of New York. Even though I wasn't close enough to go into it this time.
Sure.
20 miles away, the skyline still looks great. And it looks very different now because the Freedom Tower down at the bottom of the island instead of the Twin Towers is quite striking, but not quite the same. I love the Twin Towers, but
I did as well.
I guess I can't put them in my list because they're no longer there.
No, exactly. It'd be harsh to put them there, I'm afraid.
It would indeed. So I'm going to give my 3 first, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
My first and my all-time favourite is the Flatiron Building, which is the one that's shaped like a triangle.
Yes.
Down on 23rd Street, sort of Madison Square where it is,
which
I've always loved.
Okay.
My office used to be down there, and I just always loved that building. My second building, which is uncharacteristic, is going to be PJ Clark's.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that pub.
Yeah, I know.
That's on 3rd Avenue, about 57th Street, 56th Street.
Has it got green wood painted doors?
It has,
yeah.
But the story of the building, which you well know, which other people might not know, is that they tried to buy the air rights from the guy that owned PJ Clark's so they could put a skyscraper up, because the whole thing is surrounded by skyscrapers in Midtown.
That's right.
And it's only 2 stories.
Yeah.
And it has never yet been sold, and it still sits there. It's just the only 2-story building.
That's right.
On 3rd Avenue. It
is
happens to be
amazing.
a great bar as well.
It is amazing,
and hamburgers are great. And I'm going to be a little bit sentimental with the third one. It's going to be NYU Hospital. That's where my daughter was born.
Of course, yeah.
And so, as much as it's not a particularly brilliant-looking building, it's quite an important one to me.
Sure,
Those are
definitely.
my 3.
Well, my 3 are, first of all, the Chrysler Building.
Yes.
I love it because
I love that too.
The sheer metalwork and artistry of the roof for want of a better word, although I'm not sure if you have a roof on a huge skyscraper.
Well, you do, yeah, it's very pointy.
But on the top is spectacular, right?
And most of the time when we were in Midtown, you could always see it, couldn't you, as well?
Yeah, you could see it all the time. Now, my second one, actually, believe it or not, is Gracie Manor, which is the mayor's home, right?
Gracie Mansion.
Gracie Mansion, yeah, which is the mayor's home, and only because it reminds me of something of Manhattan's history. You see what I mean? Right. You know, it's not a skyscraper and all that.
And that's quite far uptown, isn't it?
Quite far uptown, and I used to go up there and see Ed Koch, and talk to him about it, and sit in his drawing room, and it's great.
Yeah.
And my third one, and again, this is a bit sentimental, is the Costello's building.
Yeah.
It's not Costello's anymore, but it's on 44th Street.
Yeah.
It was a building you and I used as a second home for like a couple of decades, probably. And I just love... Because I've been in there since it's not Costello's, but the door, the approach is still the same.
Yeah, but it's not even a bar anymore, I don't think.
It was a bowling alley last time I went there, believe it or not. I mean, it served drinks, but it was a bowling alley.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the next time we go there, we'll have to go and check it out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, well, that's quite nice, isn't it?
Exactly.
Well, we'll do something else tomorrow. Now, I've got lots of other tweets to read out to you. Here's one from Nico. It says, tell Porky to stop pretending he knows more about physics than the physician himself.
Well,
Behave, Mr. Porky.
Mine is common sense. Mine's common sense, Phil, OK? Don't worry about that.
And he corrects it later to say Professor of Physics, of course. Glenn Arnold says, Porky the Time Traveller would be more funny than Red Dwarf.
Was Red Dwarf about time travel?
Well, no, it was about spaceships. Though,
it was, yeah.
I don't think...
that guy from Coronation Street was in it, wasn't he?
Eh?
The guy from Coronation Street.
Which guy from Coronation
Craig?
Street? Oh, yeah, Craig Charles.
Yeah, Craig Charles.
I knew him I thought he was more famous for other things. How about this one from Carl? He says, hey, guys, do you remember the American cop series Chips? Those guys on the motorcycle.
Of course I do.
Was there a cop called Poncho? Who was
there
very
was.
Cool?
Yeah,
I remember that.
Poncho was like sort of Mexican extraction with dark black hair.
And Lloyd from Stratford-upon-Avon says, I'm sure the guy who was with Mr. Ed was also in Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Was he?
As Uncle Dave. I wouldn't know that.
No, I wouldn't know that. CHIP stood for California Highway Patrol Services.
That's right.
Didn't it?
No, something like that.
Yeah, that's right. That's CHPS.
Eric Estrada was in it, wasn't he?
Eric Estrada was in it, yeah. And the bikes were all...
Harleys, no?
Harley Davidsons, I think, yeah.
Now, here's a very interesting question. This is from Alan, who sent it in on the text, right? If the light from stars takes thousands of years to reach us, then when we look at a star, are we not looking at the past? Which is true. But if someone was on that star looking at us, would they not be looking at the future? From their perspective, probably not, right?
Yeah, because they couldn't be looking at us because the vision in their eyes would take 1,000 years to get here.
Yeah, but I mean, what they're looking at, they would have the same problem, wouldn't they?
No, they'd just be looking into darkness, into a void.
Well, no, but say that they could see the planet.
Yeah.
They would just see they would just be the reverse of us.
No, because
they would be seeing something that was a long time ago because of the time that takes for the speed of light to reach them.
No, that's not right.
Point?
No, because the human eye wouldn't, even with a telescope, wouldn't be able to see Earth because it's so far away. See what I mean?
But you can see the star, though.
Yeah, but the star's light and bright. You see what I mean?
Yes, no, I get that. All right, well, say they're looking at another star.
Yes, another star.
It would be the same thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be, yeah, I agree.
So you haven't got that one right, Alan. Here's one from David in Notts. Porky seems to be very interested in time travel. However, I suspect not for scientific reasons, but more to do with how he can arrive back to the present clutching a winning lottery ticket. I think that's right. You'd be like the bad guy in Back to the Future.
Yeah, that's right.
The old uncle, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Give me the results of all the races. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and Andy in Dumbarton says he's listening to the show in a bothy halfway up Ben Lomond.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
So that's good.
I wonder if there's any ghosts in the bothy. You know my famous ghost story about the bothy?
No, you never told us that.
Really? Is that right?
No,
well, I'm not going to tell
us again.
No, I don't think so. I don't think.
Although I have to tell you, Peter Myers, who told that story originally,
that's right,
who owns the butcher shop in New York.
Yes,
I have to say I had some of his sausages when I was away.
Very nice.
Because my sister went down there and brought some up, and they were fantastic.
Yeah.
I've forgotten how good they were.
Great,
better than anything I've actually had here.
That's very nice,
including from Borough Market.
Talking about the future and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. You know what I often, when I read these, stories about time travel and all that.
Yeah.
I sometimes think about time in our own lifetime. So, for instance, when I was 20 years of age, right, I was earning £20 a week.
Right.
And I remember I used to walk to work in the mornings to save bus fare and that kind of stuff, you know, when I was
But how much was the bus fare, though?
Well,
probably pennies, right?
Probably. I was a training reporter on the Chester Chronicle. I got £20 a week, but I'd like to save as much money for bladderation purposes, you know what I mean? To buy a few beers at lunchtime and after work. Yeah. Because we used to drink as often as we could.
I'm amazed that you didn't involve yourself in more sort of home brewery scenarios.
Well, not really.
You didn't really do that, did you?
No, I thought I might have killed myself and made it too strong or something like that.
Or made poachine or something.
Yeah, poachine or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and I remember walking to work in the mornings. I remember thinking to myself, golly, you know, wouldn't it be brilliant to earn £100 a week? Right. Which would have been 5 times what I was earning.
Yes.
So that would have been, instead of £1,000 a year, £5,000 a year, you know? And that was in the days when, I remember my dad told me, our doctor, you know, who used to, you know, come to the house. Who would be
a pillar of the community.
Pillar of the community.
And they used to come to the house. Yeah, I was telling my daughter about this when I was a little boy.
Yeah, that's right.
The doctor used to come to the house all the time. She couldn't believe it.
Yeah, house calls, yeah. And my dad told me the doctor earned £4,000 a year, you know. Yeah. And I thought, imagine earning more than a doctor.
Well, I remember my dad told me the story when he first came to London, and he was working in the Daily Sketch, I think it was.
That's right.
And he was making £1,000 a year, which was considered quite a lot of money.
Exactly.
In those days. That was why he was able to rent this place in Hampstead.
Yeah,
because they thought, oh, he's making quite a lot. He's doing quite well.
Yeah, that's right. So,
astonishing. So
then you go forward, you know, sort of 30-odd years and think, now, hang on, let me just work this out. I used to earn £1,000 a year, and, I mean, without obviously, you know, boasting about it or anything like that.
Well, you wouldn't want to boast.
No,
that'd be very unlike you.
No. But I mean, you know, the average person earns more than that a week.
Yeah.
You know, sort of average-ish sort of person, if you see what I mean.
What average person makes more than what a week?
£1,000.
No, it doesn't. No, the average wage in this country is like 26,500.
Well, that's about half of it then, if you see what I mean. But I mean, you know, better people.
Well, the average person does not make £1,000 a week. There will be people listening to this show who will say, you must be joking.
Well, above average person then, like a slightly above average person, right?
Yeah.
You know, like me, makes, you know, maybe £1,000 a week. You know what I mean? Or something like that. And then you think
that puts you in a higher wage bracket.
Yes, it probably does.
So that's clearly by definition not average.
Yeah. All right. But what I'm saying is that is no, that is a form of time travel.
What?
That's a form of time travel, isn't it?
No.
Well, you've come from one era. You've come from one era where £20 a week was enough to sustain your bladderation tendencies for a whole week. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas now, £20, I mean, literally, there are some places that you and I go where if we bought 2 large glasses of wine, do you know what? I paid £9.50 for a large glass of wine last week.
Right. I thought you hadn't had a drink.
Hey?
I thought you hadn't had a drink.
It was the week before last, actually, before I gave it up. And it was £9.50. I couldn't believe it, It was in a bar on Victoria Station,
right?
And I thought, my God,
just so nothing fancy, not a particularly.
Well, it was
like a hotel bar.
It was a hotel bar.
Was it that hotel by the station?
Yes, that's right.
Where you go upstairs.
Well, you go in the back door from the station. If you see what I mean.
But it's upstairs.
Yes, that's right.
I've been in there. It's quite a nice little bar.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah.
But £9.50, I thought. Now, supposing you and I went in there, then I would hand over a £20 note for 2 glasses of wine.
Yes.
And I would get £1 change.
Right.
Now, what I'm saying is, when I was 19, that was my whole week's wages.
That was for a week.
Yeah. And out of that, I had to give my mum £5
I still don't get
for my
how
board
you've
and
made
keep.
that. I still don't get how you've made that into time travel.
It is time travel.
It's not.
It is, because what I've done is, if I close my eyes and think about it, I've actually transported myself from one era, which seems very distant and
you haven't transported yourself.
Uncivilised now, to a new era.
No, but you haven't transported yourself.
Think of your mother at 92.
Yes.
Now, most people's memories of, you know, life start at the age of about 10, right?
Yeah.
So think about 82 years ago.
Right.
Now, what year was that?
82 years ago from now.
Yes.
Would be, what, 64, must be
64.
1930 something. No, 1930 something.
No, if you went back 100 years, it would be 1916 plus 8, 1924.
No, but you told me to add another 10. So that'd be 1934.
Yeah, that's right, 1934.
So
right, 1934.
right.
Now, that means your mother probably has a very vivid memory of the build-up to the Second World War.
She has a very vivid memory of the Blitz, actually.
Well, exactly, and the Blitz and all that. Now, that is time travel.
She used to have to go down to the old air raid shelters in Renfrew, because that was right where Clyde Bank was.
Exactly.
But you're not travelling in time.
That is time travel.
No, because you're coexisting with those events as they happen.
No, that is time travel.
No, time travel is going to a place where you don't belong.
No, but she can now relate the actual detail and fact of what life was like in the pre-war 1930s to a 10-year-old child today.
Yes.
So as far as that 10-year-old child is concerned, that is time travel.
No,
it
incorrect.
is. It's an era which that child will never be able to experience.
Well, that would be time travel if the kid could go back to it.
Yes, but the kid is talking to somebody who's been there.
Well, to listen to somebody talking about it is not time travel.
It is.
That's like saying watching an old Pathé newsreel about the war
is
the same as time travel.
No, because that's completely impersonal. But if somebody's sitting there saying...
personality's got nothing to do with it.
You know, I remember listening to Herr Hitler on the radio, you know...
I don't think she would ever say that.
Or whatever. Well, you know...
She wouldn't call him Herr Hitler.
No, well, he was known as Herr Hitler in those days,
not in England he wasn't.
He was.
Or Scotland.
No, he was.
Hitler.
Nobody thought Hitler was much of a villain until he started going around sort of invading everybody else's country.
Once she was going down the air raid shoulder, I think they were pretty clear.
Yeah, but that wasn't 1934. This is 1934. We still had a huge British Empire.
She was only 10.
We still had a huge empire. The Queen...
They sat around talking about the ins and outs of German democracy.
Hang on. The King in those days, it was a king in 1934. He was King of India. Did you know that?
Well, he was king of the whole Commonwealth.
That's what I'm saying. He was king of India. So, you know, this is time travel, man.
No, it isn't.
It is. It is time travel.
Rubbish.
It is.
How about this from Posty in Brum?
Yeah.
Porky, can you answer an Aston Villa question, please? Now that Dr. X owns us, are we Chinese state-owned? If so, is that not against FIFA or FA rules?
Well...
My season ticket for 2016-17 is down £25 to £500.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Well, you're in a different division, aren't you?
No, you're not state-owned, but then again, you could ask, is Manchester City state-owned? It depends how close the relationship is between the corporation that's bought the club and the government of that country that you come from.
Yes, but the Sheikhs of Abu Dhabi don't sort of, I suppose, would you say they run Abu Dhabi?
Well, I think the investment banks...
The Abu Dhabi Investment Fund.
Yeah, the investment funds.
It's not a state, is it? I mean, it may be quite closely related, but
I think you'll find the money in the investment funds come from state resources, i.e. gas and oil.
Right.
That's in most Middle East countries, because that's the source of their wealth.
Quite.
And the only source of their wealth.
Jane Romford says, inflation is now time travel. Porky, you crack me up. Yeah, well, what do you think it's like having to sit next to him?
What?
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as hoes.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Winners and losers coming up very shortly.
Yep.
Nick says this, Porky is partially right. Throughout life, we're all travelling through time.
Exactly.
Well, no, not really.
Yes, we are.
Ageing is not the same as travelling through time. Helder says this, a better person because he earns more. You are so shallow. No wonder you have no friends, Porky.
No.
Scott says Porky has just sealed his nail in the man of the people coffin.
Why?
With your thing about the average person.
Yes.
And Gemma says the average person makes £1,000 a week. Am I in a time warp?
Well,
See, I told you people wouldn't like that.
No, but the average person in certain categories of earning power. That's what I meant.
Yes.
That's what I meant. You know what I mean?
Now, Max has sent us another picture from, he's actually in Sydney. In Darling Harbour.
Right.
You know, the guy that was on the submarine.
Yeah.
But he sent this picture, says he's on board an iconic ship, the HMB Endeavour.
Right. Endeavour? Well, Endeavour was Captain Cook's ship.
Well, he says here, can we ask, he said, Porky quiz, can you ask him who sailed this ship and where to?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something as well. It has come to my attention that there's been some new information unveiled in the last couple of weeks about where HMS Endeavour is, HMB, because they called it Her Majesty's boat in those days, or His Majesty's, has been located.
Yeah, haven't they? Well, this one's in Sydney Harbour, so it must be a different Cook boat.
No, that's a replica.
Oh, is it?
The original boat itself.
Are you sure?
Yeah. The original boat itself disappeared, and it was...
Is this the one that they think might be somewhere in some ice flow somewhere?
I thought it might have been off Gibraltar or something like that, but they found a wreck or something like that.
Under the sea?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because they never got the original, although they got pictures of it and that kind of stuff. And I think the original, I think somebody's hit upon it and said, this is definitely Captain Cook's boat.
About that.
Yeah.
Jason says, I rent a flat and my landlord employs a gardener to look after the garden.
Oh, really?
So you're not the only person that rents places with gardens, but you're the only person that expects the tenants to look after it.
Well, if it's a block of flats, I understand that, because you pay service charges to have the grounds maintained.
Well, he doesn't actually say whether it's a block of flats.
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, I bet it is.
David
I know
says
these things.
I don't often agree with Porky, but the Chrysler Building is my favourite building, not just in New York, but in the world.
Yeah, exactly. It's a terrific building. Absolutely. absolutely.
Robert says, Porky, brilliant. You've worked out that the past up to the present is time travel. E equals MC squared plank.
No, E equals MC squared is the definitive equation of...
The Einstein equation.
Yeah, the theory of relativity. Yeah, everybody knows that,
yes,
don't they?
Okay.
Yeah, I certainly know.
James says...
It's like H2O, isn't it? What's H2O?
H2O is water.
That's right, yeah. You see.
Well, do you think I don't know my periodic table?
Well, I thought you wouldn't know.
You don't think I would know H2O? This is why, in many ways, I know that when you study your journals, you're having to remember stuff like that. Yes. Because you think everybody else doesn't know what anything is.
Well, not everybody's got a brain like a sponge, like mine is, to absorb...
You got a body like a sponge.
No.
A brain like a sponge.
Absorb information.
Do you know what the periodic table sign lettering is for gold?
Gold?
Yeah.
The periodic sign we've got is AU.
Very good.
Yes,
well
thank
done.
you. Yes.
Please ask Porky what's happening later at Epsom because there's no racing on there, says James.
Well, no, I'll tell you what it is. I'm going down there because I was invited yesterday evening, that's sort of the night that's just gone.
Monday evening?
Yes, to a banquet by a...
A banquet?
Yeah, being funded by and hosted by a betting corporation.
Oh, right.
And I met Al this afternoon down in Epsom because it's not far from, well, it is where I live, but not that part of Epsom, like Epsom Downs.
Right.
And...
because the Derby's not for a while yet, is it?
Derby's week after next.
Yes.
That's a week on Saturday, June the 4th, to which I received an invitation, actually. But
the Derby, you're going to go?
Get you in. Well, I don't know.
What do you mean you couldn't get me in?
Well, I sort of thought you might want to go, but,
You know what? I don't particularly.
No?
I was invited, funnily enough, to Sandown in July.
Right.
For Ladies' Day.
Oh, okay. But
I turned it down because, my
got
time...
there and trying to weigh up a, potential victim.
No, my time is very precious to me.
Is it?
It's very precious to me.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, just because there's not enough time in my busy life to see everybody that I want to see.
Bladderated and recovering from bladderation.
Incorrect. I mean, this weekend I didn't see my little kids because I was in America. So now this weekend coming, I'm going to have to go and see them.
Yeah, but you were seeing your other family in America.
That's what I mean.
Because of the irresponsibility of going around and having families all over the place.
There's nothing irresponsible about having a sister that decides to go and work in America.
No,
nothing to do with me.
Not at all.
And she decided that she wanted to be closer to her mother, so she moved her mother over there. My son, on the other hand, is quite happy living and working there.
Yes.
And it's not as if, we're millions and millions of miles away.
No.
But what I'm saying is that I don't live my life as some kind of solitary maniac.
Yeah.
He just does whatever he pleases.
What are you bleating about?
I'm not bleating. I'm just saying I haven't got time. So as much as your very kind offer that you didn't bother actually getting me invited.
No, well,
it probably would be something I wouldn't be able to do.
I mean, you chose to have your children. Now you're bleating that you have to fly across America to see them. I just don't get it.
I'm just saying I can't spend my life as you do, wandering about in a state of semi-bladderation, going to sporting events because you've got nothing else to do.
I've just told you that I've largely given up the devil's buttermilk.
When you say largely, what does that mean exactly?
Well,
when was the actual last drink with alcohol in it that you had?
Well, it's not that. It's wine. I've just decided to besmirch wine. Yeah.
So you haven't given up alcohol?
Well, mostly I have. I didn't have a drink all day yesterday, which was Sunday. No, all day the day before.
No alcohol at all?
No alcohol at all.
No beer?
No beer.
So when was the last alcoholic drink you had? I mean, it's not difficult, this, is it?
Well, that would have been probably on the way home from what's it called? The Titans, Clash of the Titans on Saturday.
On Saturday?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because I stopped into a sports bar and watched a bit of the FA Cup final.
Oh, you watched it there?
Yes.
Oh, all right, okay. You said you were switching over between that and the Scottish one.
Well, there was more than one screen.
Oh, I see. All right. So you didn't drink when you got home?
No.
Really?
No.
Roy says this, HMB stands for Her Majesty's Bark, not Her Majesty's Boat.
What do you mean Her Majesty's Bark?
Her Majesty's Bark is what it stands for.
Bark?
Bark.
Well, bark as in woof woof.
Well, no, bark as in tree, I don't know.
Well, that's rubbish.
Maybe it's because it's made of wood.
No.
Well, I don't think it's anything to do with dogs.
No, HM,
HMB.
Ark Royal, Her Majesty's Ark Royal, His Majesty's Ark Royal, is a fairly modern connotation. But for instance...
but I mean, the Ark Royal wasn't made of wood, was it?
No, he wasn't. But I mean, for instance, the Mary Rose, which was King Henry VIII's
that was made of wood. Was that HMB?
It was.
So it's probably something to do with wood.
No, well,
you think?
I think it's boat. I think it's more likely boat.
No, it's not Her Majesty's Boat.
I think it is.
Not.
Now, listen, talking about wine and all that, you won't believe this, but scientists from where you've just been in New York have actually think they've cracked it now to make wine. From the grapes and all that in laboratories.
Wine from the grapes and all that?
Yeah, you won't need vineyards anymore.
Well, I like the idea of him growing grapes in vineyards and pressing them properly and actually aging the wine. I don't want it made in a laboratory.
How about this? 2 bioengineering...
It tastes like that horrible stuff they sell for $4.99 in supermarkets.
In boxes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But
silver
also
boxes,
those cheap bottles, you know.
Right. 2 bioengineering graduates in San Francisco are claiming to be able to do the same in 15 minutes in a laboratory with chemicals brought from a wholesaler and no grapes that Dom Perignon... blending Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And producing champagne for 7 years doing barrels, OK?
Yeah.
So these 2 guys, they're called Alec Lee and Marden Chua. That's C-H-U-A.
Marden Chua.
Yeah, are founders of AVA Winery, and they're putting the finishing touches to a version of 1992 Dom Perignon, which they plan to ship to 499 customers at $50 a bottle.
Yeah.
OK?
50. So this is champagne you're talking about?
Champagne, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but they can't call it champagne, obviously.
No. It'll be the start of what they hope is a Silicon Valley approach to wine. I
don't like the sound of that.
Yeah, we started AVA with the goal of making the great vintages accessible to all. They say on their website, if you look at the website, it's all there. Their replica Dom Perignon was made in a laboratory using flavour compounds and ethanol. Ethanol is stuff you put in aeroplanes to make them fly.
Well, ethanol is a type of alcohol.
I know, exactly, yeah. And ethanol...
It's also how Richard Pryor set himself on fire, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is.
I think it's what they used to use to kind of create crack and
smoke
crack.
I think you're right.
Right. He was running down the street naked, aflame.
That's right. You need no grapes and you need no cellars. They have a certified sommelier with background in chemistry who considers the work so controversial he wants to be anonymous.
Maybe we should get these guys on.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
it sounds like something we would have something to
Absolutely.
talk about. I don't fancy. I wouldn't like that because the whole romance of champagne and sparkling drinks is that it's made from something that grows in the earth.
This is
I think if it was being manufactured in a lab.
Yeah,
it's like getting a cloned animal.
Well, it is.
You don't want a cloned animal. You want a real animal.
These 2 guys, as young students, studied biotechnology at the University of British Columbia.
Yeah.
They were later working on a biotech startup involving stem cells when Mr. Chua, toured a Napa Valley winery. He was shown a 1973 Chateau Montellana, a Napa wine that had beaten Old World wines in blind tasting in Princeton and sold for $11,000. He said, I can replicate that for a few dollars.
Yeah.
What do you think about playing around with a couple of compounds and making a bottle of wine? And they did.
I don't fancy it. Maybe we can try and get some and see what it tastes like.
Yeah.
But I really would feel much more comfortable. It's like the people have moved away from, the sort of the chemically produced beers.
Yes.
And the stuff that's very kind of full of, air and gas and all the rest of it gets pumped through. And people have gone back to more natural kind of small brewery type beers.
Sure.
So why would you go the other way with wine?
Well, I don't know.
Champagne.
But one of these guys says, we can't make a Dom Perignon 92 as it tasted in 92, but we can definitely make a Dom Perignon of the modern age taste like Dom Perignon today.
Really?
No problem at all.
Yeah, see, I mean, I think they'd be better off if they were going to do that, making something much cheaper that wasn't trying to be like Dom Perignon.
They can replicate any wine, they say, with the compounds from a laboratory.
I don't fancy it. Maybe we should do a taste test of some kind.
I think you're right.
We'll see if we can do that.
Yeah.
Coming up, it's time for winners and losers. This is TalkSport. Very tightly woven at the moment is the winners and losers competition. It's the 4th one we've actually had. I've won all the 3 others, of course, but this is the 4th one, and it's open until the end of the Euro, so we've got a little ways to go, but we're tied at the moment. We haven't discussed who's going to go first yet. What would you like to do?
I will go first with... sorry, what is first? Losers or winners?
Yeah, losers.
Losers? I'll go first with the losers then. Is that okay?
Then. Off you go.
Right, okay. My first loser is Peter Dallas.
Peter Dallas.
And you would say Dallas as in D-A-L-L-A-S, as in J.R. Ewing, okay?
Okay, yeah.
And you say, who's Peter Dallas?
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
And when I tell you he is the MD of Hampden Park Limited,
oh, yeah.
Right? So he is the man who was responsible for putting on the Scottish FA Cup final.
Is he any relation to Hugh Dallas, the referee?
I don't know, actually, but I mean, it's a common name in Scotland, isn't it? So it may be. But the point is that at the end of the day, who was responsible for the debacle at Hampden Park? Was it Rangers fans? Was it Hibernian fans?
Well, I have a view on that, which I will be revealing later.
Was Was it the referee? Well, I say it was the person who organised the event. The event was the Scottish FA Cup final. Yeah. It wasn't even between two Scottish Premier League teams. It was between two teams in the Scottish Championship. Yeah. And yet it turned into a fiasco. The ground was wrecked.
Although Rangers technically are now a Premier League team.
Yes, they are, yeah. The pitch was... Well, they weren't when they qualified for this final. The pitch was torn up. The posts were wrecked. In my view... I'm afraid that has to be the responsibility of Peter Dallas, who's the MD of Hampden Park Limited.
Okay.
He's my first loser.
All right.
My second loser...
I think you're laying the blame at the wrong door there.
Well, you can't comment on that. That's for our listeners to make up their mind.
Absolutely.
I'm saying the man who's in charge of Hampden Park, in which a riot erupted inside the ground, is responsible for the control of it, and he didn't control it.
Yes.
The second loser is Mark Clattenburg.
Yes.
Mark Clattenburg's the referee for the cup final.
Yeah.
And if he'd have allowed play on, which is a fundamental right of a team that's been...
advantage, you mean?
Yes, advantage. Yeah. Play on for the team that's suffered an injurious foul against them. Yeah. Then Crystal Palace would have gone 1-0 up, and that could have changed the whole course of the game.
All right.
So Peter Dallas is one, Mark Clattenburg is two.
Yeah.
The third one is the 21-year-old Australian tennis player Nick Kyrgios. What's his name? Kyrgios.
Nick Kyrgios? You mean Kyrgios?
Kyrgios. Nick Kyrgios, right. Nick Kyrgios.
He's the bad boy of tennis, isn't he?
Well, he's the bad boy of tennis, but in the very opening game of the French Open in which he's played, he got penalised for being arrogant and rude to a young ball boy for whom he asked for a towel.
He's a bit of a nasty piece of work, this guy.
He's a nasty piece of work. So
is this not the guy who, in a tournament recently, refused to hit the ball back?
He did.
On the grounds that he'd already lost the set?
No, he did and he didn't, in the sense that he said he was injured. But the point is, Peter Dallas of Hampden Park won. Mark Clattenburg, the referee who really made more than one dreadful mistake in the FA Cup final, the prize game of the season, and three, Nick Kyrgios, who I'm afraid was given a 1-point penalty for being rude to a young ball boy.
Yes, I think those are all three very interesting choices.
Yes.
I'm going to go with my three. I'm going to start off with Muirfield, actually, because it was towards the end of last week, just going into the weekend, where Muirfield made, for me, a rather stupid decision to indeed, despite the recommendation of the committee, to actually vote to keep women out of the membership of the golf club. Since then, of course, they've been stripped of the Open. They'll lose a bucket load of money.
Yep.
They may or may not care about that, but I think it gave Scotland in particular a very, very bad kind of reputation around the rest of the world, and particularly when it comes to just, not just golf, but just generally how people are.
Yes, and I think you'll find that I was the arch critic in that one.
You were the arch critic, but you didn't choose them as one of your losers.
Well, that's because I already had done.
Now, my view of what happened at Hampden is that actually, had it not been for the Hibs fans doing what they did, none of the problems would have been seen and none of the problems would have erupted. And while you've decided to blame the guys that run the stadium, that's entirely your opinion. I think it's actually down to the Hibs fans. And I know there'll be loads of Hibs fans now going, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, but the fact is the PFA have put quite clearly out there a statement which says that the players were intimidated, they didn't want to come back out and collect their medals. And I just think, football is very important and very important to an awful lot of people, but it's not to be tarnished and to be smirched by that kind of behaviour. I think it's terrible, and I think they should be ashamed of themselves. My final loser of the weekend is Frank Lampard. Now, I don't know whether you were aware of this, but while I was over in the States,
7-0 his team.
there was a New York derby, as they call it, between the New York Red Bulls and New York City FC. But poor old Frank Lampard, who's had a pretty torrid time, because first he went over there, did a load of pictures, said the superstar is coming. Then it turned out he was going to go play for Manchester City for a season. He's been injured, so this was one of the first games he's played properly for the team. But he was brought on in the 75th minute of the game when New York City were already 5-0 down. And as they brought him on, they made this ridiculous sort of loud announcement saying, coming out of the field, Super Frank Lampard. And, of course, they all started booing because the fans were watching that they were losing 5-0. He didn't do much, and by the time he'd finished playing the last sort of 15 minutes, they'd lost 7-0.
Yeah.
So poor Frank Lampard's time in New York, I think, is not doing very well at all. So those are my three. Hibs fans, Frank Lampard, and Muirfield. And we're going to do the winners now.
Everyone's a winner, baby, that's no lie. That's no lie. You never fail to satisfy.
So I guess I should go first with my winners then.
Indeed.
My first winner, a very obvious one, you might say, is Louis van Gaaal.
Right.
A lot of people will say, poor Louis van Gaal's been badly treated. He's been shown a lack of respect by Manchester United. They haven't handled it all very well. But this is a guy who I think quite enjoyed being, the focus of all the attention while he was there, messing about with all the journalists, saying all the things he did. He's walked away with £5 million. right, because they've shortened his contract and they've had to pay him off for the whole year. He says in the papers this morning that he would have walked away for nothing. But he's got all this money. His wife will be much happier. His life will be much calmer.
Yes.
Unless he decides to go back into football management in the Premier League. I don't think he will. I hope he does, because I don't want to miss him. But I think we and because he won the FA Cup final at the weekend as well.
Yes.
I think he turns out. I mean, I think we'd all like to have that kind of weekend. You know, you win a major trophy, somebody hands you £5 million in an envelope.
Yes, fair enough.
And you don't disappear and you don't have to do anything else. My second winner of the weekend is a 45-year-old man called Chris Swales. Now, I don't know whether you've heard of this guy, have you?
I know about him. He's from Morpeth.
He's from Morpeth Town. You'll know then that he's the oldest scorer in a Wembley Cup final, right? Because Morpeth Town's victory was in Sunday's FA Vase.
Yes.
Sealing a fairy tale win for not only Chris Swales, but also for the team. They came from behind to beat Hereford, right?
Yes.
But the thing that's extraordinary about this guy is that he was a bit like you. He was thought to be close to death.
Yes.
Right? He apparently died 3 times.
Yep.
Because he'd suffered a little bit like many people have.
Yes.
Suffered some kind of heart murmur on the pitch.
Indeed.
And the guy shouldn't really even be around.
Yeah.
But he shouldn't be able to score winning goals. So
absolutely.
He's my second winner. And my third winner for the weekend, I think, is going to be Adele. Because Adele has just signed what is believed to be the biggest recording contract ever signed.
Yes.
For something like £90 million, which is quite a significant amount more than Whitney Houston signed a contract for some years ago.
Yes.
So those are my 3. I'm going to have Chris Swales, Adele, and Louis van Gaaal.
Okay.
As my 3 winners.
Okay, that's very good. Now, I had in my list Louis van Gaaal, right? I was going to nominate him because you're absolutely right. He won the FA Cup anyway at the end of his career. I was also going to have Chris Swales. As you quite, because he won the Vase. He's 45 years of age. He's been playing professional football since he was 25.
Yes.
Since he was 20, 25 years. He goes first. But anyway, you've taken those.
It's also quite a good record, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good record. You've taken both of those, and they're very commendable. I was going to have them. So my 3 winners are going to be these, right?
Yes.
First of all, Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to say Rory McIlroy has ended a 6-month drought of winning competitions by winning the Irish Open. That is brilliant to set him up for the season, in which we all hope he's going to add another couple of majors to his list of victories, right? My second is Jose Mourinho. It has to be. I've been bashing the drum now for so long to say, why don't Manchester United, the biggest club in the world, just employ the best manager in the world? Yeah. And, of course, Jose not only is going to sign for them, but we believe that he's been on a £4 million retainer all this time to make him to stop him signing for somebody else.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't sign for PSG. Don't sign for Real Madrid, who might want you back. Here's a retainer just to keep you available until we get rid of Louis van Gaal. That's the story that's been published. So he's a big winner in the same way that you said Louis van Gaal walked away with a lot of money. Jose's walked into a lot of money without even taking the job.
Yeah, but his work is still to be done, though.
And he's got a £75 million contract. That is a big winner. And my third winner, right, and there might be an air of cynicism about this from people thinking why, is Wayne Rooney. Everybody's written off Wayne Rooney and said he shouldn't be playing for England anymore. They've written off Wayne Rooney and said he shouldn't actually be playing in a striking position for Manchester United anymore. But if you watch the FA Cup final, as I think you may have done, or you may have seen the highlights since, the whole game was turned on a miraculous run by Wayne Rooney, who literally weaved his way through 6 or 7 Crystal Palace players, members of the opposition, before, on an astonishing sort of U-turn, he pivoted around, put the ball over, as a result of which Manchester United scored their goal, which led to them winning the FA Cup.
Well, the winning goal.
The winning goal. And that, to me, is the true sign of a captain. He was made man of the match. He now enters the Jose Mourinho era in which he'll be treated well, because Mourinho twice tried to buy him when he was the manager of Chelsea. It might have been a while ago. He's still the same player, and he's still the same manager. Has great admiration for him. So it's Rory McIlroy, Jose Mourinho, and Wayne Rooney.
OK, well, I'm just going to tweet out the voting process now. It will be open from this point until midnight tonight. Please do vote. Please do not vote often. Just vote once.
Yes.
And we'll try and keep it as clean as possible.
Indeed.
That was winners and losers.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mikes. Go there now at the Two Mikes on Twitter, and you will find pinned at the top of the page is the place where you can vote for either Mr. Parry or myself. And the voting, as I said, will be open until midnight, and we shall see who is the victor.
Indeed,
in coming times. Now, James says Bark is the class of ship, apparently.
Bark,
which is why HMB is the correct
Bark.
Bark is the class of
so
ship.
Is that BARQUE?
Well,
Mark.
It comes from BARQUE, funnily enough, from the French, which meant a three-masted vessel. But it became Bark, B-A-R-K. So nothing to do with the wood.
Yeah, no, nothing to do with the wood.
So a bit of plankery for both of us on that one.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, what I want to tell you about is this, right,
By the way, it says here, Porky is wrong. Wayne Rooney was not man of the match.
He was.
Says Moss.
Sorry, as far as I'm concerned, he was. And not only as far as I'm concerned, but when I looked at all the scores in every national newspaper the next day, Rooney got more man of the match nominations, and Mark's averaging 8.5 out of 10 than any other player.
Speaking of that, because I was looking at some of the match reports from the England game, which we haven't really talked about, John Stones only got 5. In all of the remarks.
No, it couldn't have been in all of them because in the ones I saw, he was getting 6, 6.5, and 7.
They said he lacked confidence in the report I saw.
Well, I didn't cue in on that one, but anyway, I wasn't even nominating John Stones, was I? I was nominating Rooney. Who I think now, actually, is going to have a renaissance of his career under Jose Mourinho.
It's possible.
Who will know exactly how to position him.
Well, the thing about Mourinho, right, is that he loves players who chase back, which Rooney does. He loves players who put every single bit of effort into working for the team all over the pitch, which is why I imagine he would want him in the squad. But which is why he may not decide he likes Rashford, because Rashford doesn't do a lot of that.
Yeah, but Rashford is such an exciting young player.
Well, he is, but so was Romelu Lukaku at one point,
and
when
he scores goals.
Chelsea.
Well, it looks like Chelsea are going to buy him back. By the way.
Well, I wondered about that because I did read a couple of things over the weekend where it was being said that Lukaku was kind of heading that way.
And all I can say about that is, while Lukaku's been great for Everton and he's a terrifically exciting player, and in a winning team he'd be even better.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to leave and go to another club, you have to let them go, because I don't want to play a player for Everton who feels reluctant.
You haven't been nice to Mary-Anne Fellaini since he left.
Sorry?
You haven't been very nice to Mary-Anne Fellaini.
Well, I don't think he advanced his career by going to Manchester United.
No, but you were very kind of praiseworthy of him when he played at Everton.
Yeah.
And then when he went to Man United, you said you started slagging him off.
Well, I don't think he did very well at Manchester United, and it's up to him anyway. If his heart's not in playing for Everton, go and play for someone else.
Chris says this: although Rooney deserved man of the match, the award was actually given to Jesse Lingard.
Yeah, but I'm sorry.
And Stephen says
it was given to Lingard for one flash of pretty much genius when he hit a volley and scored a classic cup final goal. But Rooney actually made the game.
And also, Stephen, who's a Man United fan, says it was not the winning goal that you were describing.
No, of course it wasn't.
Well, I
didn't say it was.
You said it was.
I didn't hear you say that.
Well,
I said it was the goal of the match.
So it was their first goal.
Sorry?
It was their first goal then.
It was their first goal, yeah, which opened up the scoring, and then which cancelled out Palace's goal from 2 minutes earlier.
Yes.
And that's why it was such an important goal, because it gave Palace only 2 minutes to enjoy their burst of superiority.
All right.
Yes.
Well, there we are.
Now,
Becky says, big comeback by MG this week. Great winners and losers. Even Porky had 2 of MG's winners. And Hibs fans are clearly to blame.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but I had the organisers of the event to blame because it's their job to police the stadium and make sure it's civilised and you watch football in comfort and safety, OK?
Tom says this: sorry, Porky, MG wins easily this week. An impressive display, MG, considering you were away all weekend. That's nice of them to say that, isn't it?
No, excuse me, I was gracious enough to say I would have taken 2 of the winners had I gone first in that.
How good they are.
No, it just proves.
Or maybe not.
No, it just proves that, anything you can do, I can at least match, and if not better.
But I didn't spend all weekend studying, the results and watching everything and making sure that I was kind of, digging you up. Because I was away with my family.
No, you were on the lash in Connecticut.
Not on the lash at all. It's a disgraceful thing to say.
Crawling around on your hands and knees, looking for more drink, empty bottles and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, what I'm trying to tell you about, is very important. In the past, I've been highly critical of this blinking service called BNB.
BNB?
Yeah.
Do you mean Airbnb?
Airbnb, yeah. And this is where you rent out a room in your house.
B&B is brandy and Benedictine. My mother used to drink that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
very interesting.
It's very dead. What do you mean, very interesting?
Yeah, what's it got to do with this?
Why are you always so dismissive of any remarks I make about my
mother? I'm trying to tell our millions of listeners a fascinating story.
Because B&B
You're getting in the way again.
Yeah, well, no, I don't get in the way. This is our show, so therefore we get in each other's way. That's the whole point.
Yes.
I mean, you seem to be forgetting, that it's called the Two Mics.
Yes, that's right.
Which means that, equally speaking, we should have equal amount of time.
Well, we do.
Which I'm sure we don't.
Right, now then, what I was going to say is, so I can't just bear this idea. Airbnb, yeah. Can't bear this idea of, somebody knocks on your door and they've got a suitcase in hand. Oh, hello. Excuse me, I was sent here by...
I've got the plague.
No, I was sent here by Airbnb. Oh, right, OK.
Well, I don't think you're sent there by Airbnb.
Well, you are, aren't you? Because you look on your computer and it says spare room there.
No, but you don't get sent... You do the deal with the individual person once you've been vetted by the Airbnb people.
All right. Well, I still wouldn't want a stranger in my house using my loo and my kitchen and all that kind of stuff. Forget it.
Well, what if it was some, fabulous-looking babe, as you would put it?
Yeah. Well, I'd want to know why she's wandering around London late at night looking for a room,
Why would it be late at night?
Well, it probably is, people...
Why wouldn't it be during the day?
Well, you're not going to rent out your room from breakfast till the evening, are you? It's normally for people to stay overnight, isn't it?
Well, no, but it's normally for people to stay more than one night. I think, generally speaking, it's done for a longer period.
Oh, I thought it was just like...
No, I mean, like, for example, people will be going to New York for a week, sometimes for work, sometimes to see people, and rather than staying in a hotel, they will sometimes say, offer to exchange a place in London for a place in New York.
I wouldn't want to stay in anybody else's house.
Why not?
Well, I just wouldn't, I think it's an invasion of privacy apart from anything else.
Well, not if there's nobody there.
Well, that's different altogether. That's leasing out your house when it's vacant. Airbnb. It's about you living in the house and having somebody in your spare room.
Not necessarily.
It is.
Sometimes it's an exchange. Well, sometimes it's like renting a room in a house. Yeah.
So
but people live like that all the time. Some people come to London and share flats with each other, for example, without knowing each other.
Well, that's mad.
How do you feel about that?
But I mean, in your house, right? So somebody's knocked on the door at 6 o'clock. They've got a bag in their hand. The deal's been done, as you say, and they're coming to stay. Oh, thank you very much for the night. What happens then if they don't want to go out? Do you say, oh, come and sit in my lounge and watch my television? No, thank you.
Well, I think
some filthy stranger in my lounge.
Filthy stranger?
Yeah, that's right.
Hopefully you're not inviting a filthy stranger in. I think the point is that you vet the people before you decide to let them come to your house. Right?
And then...
And you look at their profile. And you get probably references from other places where they've been. And I imagine you would have a pretty straightforward list of rules. Like, for example, you will rent a room in my house. And you will have access to a bathroom. But you will not, for example, have access to the kitchen. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, this is all so mad. So then in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're trying to sleep, and suddenly you hear the door open of the room which your lodger is.
Right.
And you hear them
and he comes out dressed as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, that's right. Or pacing on the corridor, or suddenly you hear him go into a bathroom, then you hear the vomiting sound of him, because he's been overindulging in nefarious bottles of drink that he's brought into the house in his suitcase.
Maybe worse than that, he's been emptying the contents of your drinks cabinet.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's hideous.
Well, I think there are ways of ensuring that doesn't happen.
But anyway, there's a worse system. What happens now is, what they've extended it to is, that one of the big growing markets the last 20 years has been self-storage.
Yes.
People build these warehouses, you take your stuff along, you move in house or something, you've got a 3-month delay, put it in storage.
Absolutely, I've done all that.
Yeah, and you're going abroad and all that. Well, guess what the latest is?
What?
Ring up Airbnb.
Living in a storage box?
No. Ring up Airbnb or the equivalent, right, and say, I want to rent out somebody's loft, please. And then somebody rings up and says, I've got a spare loft. And then you take all your garbage and your junk to somebody's house and you put it in their loft.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't fancy that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Because you don't even know what sort of filthy bags of stuff they're going to put in your loft.
That's exactly what I'm saying. The business has been set up by 2 management consultants and they say we're expecting a mushrooming response to this marvellous new idea.
I've got enough stuff of my own rubbish in the loft.
Exactly.
Anybody else's.
Exactly. I can't believe it.
Very strange.
Can't believe it. £5 a box, they charge.
You know what the answer is? Don't go on Airbnb. Don't rent your place out.
Well, I don't. And I wouldn't dream of it. You're right there.
You've given me a cough back.
No, I haven't.
I was fine all weekend.
And I've been fine all weekend, mate. I haven't got a cough.
Well, you've given it back to me again.
No, I haven't. It's this...
swine.
It's the air conditioning in here. They pump in dirty air.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Today you and I are not the same. You say you like the sun, I like the rain. So before we go, do it all again.
Very exciting finish in this game between Cleveland and Toronto.
Oh, crikey.
It was just 4 points in it.
Oh, no.
There's now 6 points in it. 105-99 to Toronto. and it's 22 seconds left in the game. And so it might be 2-2 at the end of game 4. So a lot of people are very interested in that. A couple of texts and tweets.
Yeah, not me, actually.
A couple of people have said, I know you're not. Al says, can't believe none of you had Alan Pardew as a loser after his dancing, which we probably both thought about.
Yeah, exactly.
In the end, he lost more than that, didn't he?
Of course he
lost
did,
the whole cup final.
It was ludicrous, though, that dancing. I couldn't believe it.
Was a bit daft.
Couldn't believe it, yeah. People said to me...
That's what he'll be remembered for now,
Of course he will, yeah. People said to me on Twitter, why do you get so worked up about that? And I said, because... when you do that, and it's so late in the game, it was 72 minutes when Palace opened the scoring, you send out a message to your players, job done. That's what you're sending out. You're saying, look how relaxed the boss is now. We've cracked it. We've done it. And the focus of attention just completely dissipated.
Well, also, you wonder if, say, for example, they had won it and somehow they'd got the winning goal in extra time, what would he have done then? What would his dance have been?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
You don't have to worry about that. Now, here's one from Joshua, who says he's using Airbnb for an upcoming Chicago trip.
Right.
The whole apartment on North Dearborn for $110.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I assume that's $110 a night.
Yeah, of course.
Rather than $110 in total.
Well, you think so, wouldn't
but
you?
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people, find Airbnb a very good way of doing things because hotels have now, in places like London and New York and Los Angeles and Chicago, they're so ridiculously expensive. I mean, you're talking paying $300 or $400 a night to be in the centre of town. Whereas if you can get somebody's apartment and you're there for a week, then, and you're running your own business, why wouldn't you do it?
Well, I cannot abhor the idea of staying
I wouldn't.
in somebody else's house.
I wouldn't do it.
Having somebody else staying in my house, I just don't want to do it.
I wouldn't do it, but I would go to somebody else's house, particularly if it was like a really beautiful apartment overlooking the Hudson River or something like that in New York,
Well, the reason why I was always desperate to make myself financially independent from a very young age was so that I could actually have the independent state of Mike Parry and not let anybody else in if I didn't want to.
No borders allowed.
Exactly. No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Boris says this. Hi, guys. My vote is for Mike, the sane one, as the wanton Porky's winners Rooney will find it hard to make any impression at Euro 16 like a cart horse, and I would have a wager that Mourinho will not get United higher than Van Gaal. What are the odds? Well, we'll be arguing about that, I'm sure, for many
Mourinho wins things. Mourinho wins things.
He didn't win anything last year.
Did he win things at the club he last went to?
Of course.
Thank you.
I'm a great fan of Mourinho.
Premier League
to convince me.
champions.
Look at the time. It's time to go. It's time for the news. Oh, no, I haven't got. We've got a minute left.
Yeah, of course you have. Yeah,
I do this all the time.
What do you keep doing this for?
Do you know why I do that?
Why?
It's because the people behind the glass start distracting me with noises in my ears.
No,
and I
you
assume that we have to get out.
No, you see, it's a poor workman who blames his tools.
I'm not blaming my tools. I'm blaming the tools behind the glass.
You're calling them tools behind the glass?
No, certainly not. That's exactly not what I would do.
It's not very nice.
No.
All I would say is that I think you'll find that this show races away so quickly with you that sometimes you lose the finishing line in a flurry of speed.
It's
you see?
true.
And that flurry of speed can be forgiven.
Yes.
I can overlook that. Now, I'm off to Epsom now.
Yes, you are.
I'm off to Epsom to see...
It's going to be a bit weird, isn't it, at this time in the morning in Epsom?
No. By the time I get there, it'll be light.
Will you be welcomed with a bacon sandwich or something?
I would think so. There's nothing more majestic than seeing a massive sporting arena like a golf course during the Open or like
an empty football
like
stadium.
Cheltenham or Epsom, waking up in the morning. It's magnificent, honestly.
It will be very nice.
It will
we'll
be.
be able to hear your
the birds will be singing as well.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mikes at the Two Mikes on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mikes TV. Anyway, thanks for your interest in my trip to see you. You haven't asked me about my mother. You haven't asked me about my sister. You haven't asked me about my son. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
How's your mum?
She's very well, thanks.
And how's your sister?
She was very well too.
How's your son?
He's great.
Great. That's got that out of the way then.
Scumbag.
Stovetop. Empty contents of can into skillet. What's a skillet?
A skillet's like a frying pan.
If you love the Two Mikes podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
You're talking about you're mad, you're a young whippersnapper.